Back to our usual level of humour then, Jeff.
Yes.
It's sad, so sad. With the sad situation.
Very sad. And getting more, it's hard to get more absurd, but we managed to do it. Hello, everybody.
Frequently.
We are, this is the APG pre-show. We're awaiting the arrival of the doctor, the good doctor, Stephanie Plummer, and perhaps the first officer for a major U.S. carrier, Dana. We're not sure if he's going to be joining us or not. He's still a little under the weather, and we're hoping that he'll be able to make it today, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, pardon me.
Oh,
Anyway.
Hello, Neville Bounds and Liz Piper and Neil Lanwarm, Michael Kuipers. Hello, sir. Lane Street.
Alex.
Who else do we have here?
Ottawa. Ooh.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tanya W. Hello, Tanya.
Jeff, Lane wants to know if you're in the toilet, sitting in front of the shower curtain.
Actually, this is the, just to prove it. If I can.
What a fabulous
this is a toilet
view.
with a toilet with a view. So this is like a like an atrium kind of thing, like an inner, and it's got like a skylight above. I'm on the 6th floor, and there are 7 floors.
Ooh.
And
Steph's here.
oh, hey, Steph.
Hi, Steph.
So-
You need to unmute.
So yeah, this was the best. So hey, how you doing?
Good.
So this is one of the, I'm at the Embassy Suites in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, and this suite is not as huge as the other one that I was in the last time I was here, but it's still nice. It's still kind of like different compartments or rooms. It's a little bit more compact, but the little kitchenette area is ahead of me, and it's got a lot of reflective surfaces. And so I thought, okay, that's where the table was actually, and I thought it's too too many reverberations, too many echoes. So I moved the desk over here in front of the window with a curtain, and there's a sofa here, and there's carpet. So I think that will be a better place for the recording. Probably a lot more than you all wanted to know, but there you go.
Are you recovered from the weekend, Steph?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Is
trying
your
to
bank
recover.
balance recovered from taking your brothers to London?
That may never be recovered, but that's right.
No, they didn't hold back, did they?
They usually don't.
No.
That
But
was
a lovely pair of guys. It was.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was great seeing them.
it was fun. Sorry, I'm just trying to get myself organized.
Sure. Take your time, no problem. I think I have everything set up. I tweeted. I pushed, so to speak. Messaged.
Let me see if I got a push message this time. I did last time.
I didn't get one this time,
Okay.
but I never
I
do.
got a push and I got a tweet.
Awesome. Let's see what else. I updated the APG Live page. I think that should reflect, point to the right place. Lots of things to do before we do a show. I did the Google Doc with all the appropriate links. Should I share the Google Doc with our fine folks in the chat room?
That
Why
is
not?
up to you.
Why not? Why not, I say. But you in the chat room, you'll have to promise not to use the Hangout host link, because that would not be fair of you to do that.
Yeah, we'll ban you forever.
Maybe I should delete that, because I
Yes.
don't want to tempt anybody.
Liz will wield her spanner and smacking someone over the head with it if you try and do that.
That is true.
Liz, I have moved my orifice up to
Wow.
my office.
It sounds painful.
Liz, I've moved
I don't
my
want to see Nick move his orifice. Thank you.
up to one of the bedrooms so that we may get on with redecorating that room downstairs where I normally broadcast from. So the idea is to turn that room into a kind of studio, both photographic and audio, although the two are actually incompatible, because obviously a photographic studio is nice, clean white, and a audio studio appears to be horrible and black. No, I mean, it has lots of sound absorbing walls, which is not what a photographic studio has. You've normally got shiny kind of walls and things. So there you go.
All right. The guys at the simulator say, thank you for doing such a nice job of cleaning.
Did they mention the floor I mopped twice?
Whoa, so you went over there and helped everybody clean up, huh?
Yeah, at least I could do. Since everyone
Nice.
was logged off. No, there were a few of us over there.
Did you remember the old high-wing Boeing wooden model?
No, I decided not to steal it. Wouldn't know what to do with it. I thought about just sticking it out in the high street and watching cars run over it. But in the end, I just left I just left a nice note for them in the middle of the simulator, in the middle of the simulator front panel, suggesting they might want to get rid
I
of
did
it.
see that. I did
they-
see that. Yeah, it was a very, very nice note.
Very, very kind.
Well, it was the least I could do. Give them a little bit of advice after all the good fun they've given us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. No. So do you have that picture again of the note that you left? I was wondering if there's a way to share that with the chat. Probably not.
I don't know how to share. Can you share a picture with the chat?
I don't know. Probably not.
Because I'm just wondering how you do that.
Wait a minute. Maybe I can share it on my feed.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to send it to you because it's
Stream.
on my phone
Okay.
right here.
How are you going to send it?
I'm going to message it to you.
Okay. Massage me, baby.
There you go.
So what do you think, Steph? Do you think, did you get the feeling that Dana would be joining us or not?
I don't know. I thought it was depending on how he was feeling. But then the fact that he didn't respond to
Yeah, he hasn't done
any
anything today.
messages today is not encouraging.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking. Okay. Okay, I got the picture. And let's see what I do here. Let's save this. Oh, something's causing my MacBook Pro to get all noisy. Save as.
You have a noisy MacBook Pro.
At the moment,
Doesn't sound good.
but I don't know. Maybe it'll settle down. Okay, save. Now, I'm going to quit preview, and I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to say upload overlay. Go over here to desktop, Nick's pick, open, and fingers crossed. Voila.
There it is.
Yes. Oh, is that filling the screen right, or is it getting cut off? No,
Yeah,
it's
look,
okay.
it looks right.
No, I can see it.
Okay, good. So there you go. That's Nick's handiwork, so to speak.
And quite obvious since he signed it.
Yeah. What is that now? What are you doing now?
Well, I'm just showing you the time. It's
thank you.
It's my fan clock,
Oh, nice.
which
Nick has a fan.
I do. I have a fan at last. I had to go and buy it myself. But
I like
see,
your
I've
fan.
got some toys up here, and I've got my spinning globe that levitates in a magnetic field.
Hello, Rebecca Saylor. Let's see who else. Barbara. Hello, Barbara. Good seeing you over there in London. That was fun. Yeah, we may actually talk about that
A bit.
Oh,
on the show.
I have to send something for. Sorry,
Okay.
I knew there was something I was forgetting to do.
Don't forget to do that, Steph.
Yes.
Whatever that it is. I don't know.
Meh.
Okay, let me do a sound check while we're waiting.
Liz,
Ow.
Flight 209, you are cleared for takeoff. Roger.
Is that like way too loud? Or is
That's
it
right.
okay?
That's
It was pretty loud.
I was trying to say, Liz, he who dies with the most toys wins.
I don't think that's true, but okay.
It is in Anderson.
What do you
House.
win?
I have no idea.
A lot of
Come
toys.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't put that
No, I have some meetup feedback to send to you.
Oh, okay.
I'm just putting. it
Oh,
in the
more
feedback
work for
folder
me.
'cause-
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hey, last time you
You're
asked
welcome.
me, but I hadn't done any. So this time I.
By the way, Corey said that he was supposed to be back on, or not back, but he was supposed to be on
Yes.
Nightly News last night. But I looked at the CBS Evening News site, and I didn't see his segment.
No, we'll talk about that.
Okay,
So
we'll talk about that. So shut up, Jeff. We'll talk about it later. I understand. So you sent me something somewhere?
It should be in the feedback folder now.
Feedback folder.
Did it go to?
Oh, yeah, I've got it.
Well, I don't know. I haven't looked. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Was this from Corey?
No, I recorded it. It's from my phone.
Oh, gotcha.
Very nice.
Okay.
Hopefully, it
you
sounds
actually-
okay. I
okay.
did not actually listen back to it, and it's kind of noisy, and we didn't have
Okay.
a microphone.
Sounds like a perfect
So-
meetup. Audio.
It might sound
Yeah.
terrible.
Let me see. I'm going to listen to it. I don't think you'll be able to hear it the way I have everything set up right now. Let me see. That doesn't sound too bad.
Too bad. Okay.
Okay, let me get it over here into the iPad. It's got to go to Dropbox, and then I got to retrieve it from Dropbox.
Just
Are you
small
recording
one.
already? So then you'll have like 10 spikes.
No, I'm not
Funny.
recording.
I meant Nick on his
Oh.
audio.
No, I'm not recording it, but I'm primed, ready to go.
We're about ready to go here. We're gonna
Okay.
do this thing.
I'm hitting
I'm just-
record.
I'm waiting for. I guess it hasn't. What is going on with this thing? What is going on? Doesn't seem to be accessing my Dropbox. Let me make sure it's still connected. Yes.
Save you too.
No, I had to get up at 3:15 this morning in Norfolk, and I got here and I was doing all the show prep, and I thought, I need to take a nap. I'm not sure how long I slept, but I'm still a little groggy. I don't think I'm getting a connection. Why not? Oh, because it's logged into my mixer. I'm not going to get very far like that. Do you hear that?
I do. Is someone
Great.
else rearranging furniture?
Well, somebody,
Flushing
it
the
must be
toilet.
above me or next door, is dragging stuff on their tile floor.
Nice.
Thank you.
Oh, it's Stephen. It's our survey pilot.
Oh, hey, Stephen.
Hey, Stephen, steady with the Airbus talk. I mean, it's the bin liner we need to worry about.
Come on. Is somebody setting up to record in another room right next to me?
There's a different podcast happening upstairs.
Damn them.
It's the Furniture Moving podcast upstairs.
That's right.
Yeah, why don't you slam the doors too? Thank you. Oh, I wonder if they can hear me. Okay. Now that I have it connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, I am actually getting the audio file that you sent me, Steph. And let me go over here to Trunk and Corey and move to
Look at all these people that have joined us in the show notes. We have the anonymous monkey, buffalo, panda, hedgehog, orangutan, penguin, sheep.
Oh, I want to know who the orangutan is.
I don't know.
Does the person even know that has been assigned that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any way to know.
Okay.
Well, hey everyone, it's Dr. Steph, and I am here in Charlotte, North Carolina at Max Speed
Can you hear
Shop.
that?
Just
Yep.
finished up an
All right. Yeah, a little noisy, but
Yep.
we can understand you. Okay. And are we going to play that? Is that going to be something in the intro portion of the show?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
It's about 3 minutes long. So.
Alrighty. Let me move that. No, whatever. You'll just have to remember because I won't.
Okay, good.
All right. And let me make sure that Audition is recording. And there we go. No. I don't think it is. What happened?
I don't know. What's happened?
Let me zoom in. Oh, it is. Okay. Right. Well, let's do our... Still have a bit of a cough, sorry. Let's do our clacking. Ready?
Quacking.
Are you recording?
Already?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1, clap. Yay. Clapping commenced. And it looks like we're starting about 53.
I've got the clap again.
Oh, no.
You know, they offer treatment for that these days.
Oh, okay. That's fair enough.
Sorry to hear that. All right, let me collapse this window a bit. And
You're going to have to address the curtain behind you when you do your intro stuff because it's going to be a question.
Everyone thinks Hillel is hiding behind it.
shh, don't spoil the surprise.
I mean, I know you already did, but
Yeah, okay. I'll be happy to. I'll be happy. You'll have to ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Me. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't do my little script thing that says what we're going to be talking about in news. Free beer. Pegasus. 737 update. That's good enough. Where did my typing go? I was just typing. I don't see where it went.
It's all gone. Disappeared.
Darn it. There we go. Yeah, okay. That'll work. Okay. Here we go. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 308.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. 1.39.
Okay. Hang on here. Right as I started,
Right on
I get a text from Dana. Oh, because I erased. Okay, looks like Dana's going to join us. Let me email him. Would you tell him I'm going to email it to him?
I'm on it.
Thanks. I'm thinking, maybe I should see what he just sent me. Compose. Okay. It has been sent. Didn't we say 4:30?
We did. He wasn't in the Google Docs anyway.
It was initially.
Well, it was, but he wasn't.
No, apparently he wasn't. So he sent us a picture of the Google Doc that the host link was not there. Well,
No, that's not a picture of the Google Doc.
oh, it's not? Oh, it's the, so he wasn't even looking at the Google Doc.
Correct.
I guess I could have put it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, what's this? No, I don't want to connect to Google Drive.
All right, so I have a half a second here.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
I'm not sure I sent the right poop. I think I screwed up. No, I didn't send the right link. Damn it. Darn it. Sorry.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
Hang on, Dana, if you're watching. Copy. I'm going to send one more email with the correct... I'll tell you what. Dana, if you're hearing us, look at the intro page of the of Evernote, and you will now see the host link. Oh, damn it. Oh. I should learn how to type. You still awake over there, Nick? The bed's right behind you, so all you had to do is crawl in.
Yeah, well, that's where I was sleeping tonight. I decided that I wouldn't wake up Jilly at like 2 a.m. I'd just crawl into the one behind me.
It's in the Evernote.
Come on, Dana. You press one button.
Intro.
Come on, mate. It's just click it.
It's, to be fair, I think I sent him the wrong link in the email to him. I think I sent him a link to the Google Doc, which does not have the host link in it. Yeah, see, there we go.
It's like,
Okay. All right, sorry. Look in
You're trying to avoid him or
Evernote.
something.
Sorry. Do you think you'll be able to figure it out?
well, he
I
was in
think he will.
Evernote already, so he just has
I
to.
know.
He just has to.
Now I just got to go back to Evernote.
Refresh it. Yeah.
He will be joining us any moment. I can just feel it.
Well, funny old thing, it's not in my show notes.
No, it's not in the show notes at all anymore.
Yeah, because I shared the show notes with everybody.
Oh,
I didn't want somebody to join us
We're playing
unexpectedly.
we're playing hide the link. I see.
Yeah, I
Oh,
just didn't realize that Dana was going to need it because he wasn't there. So I figured, okay,
Damn,
well, he's
he-
not going to
he
be here
found
with us
it.
today. Yeah.
Hi, Dana. You
Well, we
found
see
it.
your.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, okay. Well, so we have two different camera angles. He has a multi-camera setup, apparently. You are muted, just to be aware of that. Yeah, you're muted on the Hangout itself. There
I
you
had to reset it up. You guys.
go. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This thing was supposed to be doing this all afternoon, but
Oh man, you sound terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, go to bed, mate. Go to bed.
I was in bed. That's why I'm so damn late. I slept, and my damn text was supposed to go off. It never went off.
Where are you?
Where am I? Earth?
Yeah.
What?
That looks-
Any
are you- I
particular
thought you were at
location
home.
on Earth?
No, I'm working. I feel
Okay.
fine.
I love those PAs. People are going, ding, I think the pilot's dying. I hope your captain was doing the PAs and not you.
And the radio. And
No, I'm doing everything.
Oh, God. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Hi. Well, I just did wake up.
Everything's okay.
I'm dying. Don't worry. We'll be fine.
Oh, man. So let me try to guess where you are by looking at the decor of your
Hotel room.
Hotel room.
And me all whited out because the light's too bright.
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, if you can darken it a bit, at least your face is really hot. You're hot. Oh, that we
that
can't
helps.
see it.
That is ridiculous.
Those are my only two options.
Okay, well, then leave it on there.
Yeah, we can.
You can move the light a little
We won't
further
be able to
away.
see or
perhaps?
hear him at that point.
No, there's no way. There's nothing I can do.
Nah, you're fine. You're good. Oh, you know what? Maybe turn that light on behind you. Maybe it'll say, "Oh, there's a light back there too," so I don't have to overexpose the
Yeah,
face.
hold on.
Okay. Kind of looks familiar, but I'm not sure where he is. Oh no, there's going to be a problem with the light. Probably one of those things where you have to turn on the switch near the front
Right,
of
right.
the room.
Is that light as complicated as a mad dog, do you think?
More
Less.
so.
Well, I would turn it on if there's a damn switch.
Yeah. Okay, we'll turn that one on then. There you go. That's going to work, I think.
Don't you guys love watching this in the chat room? It's so entertaining.
Yeah, I just love watching the clock tick by. Thinking,
It's just think of it as every minute that goes by is just a minute closer to retirement. Don't worry about the time of day. Don't worry about the time of day.
Oh, he found the
Even I
switch.
can see from the other side of the planet how it's going down.
Oh yeah, better. Looks better.
All right, that looks a lot better.
At least I have my speed is really good.
Good. Where are you?
You've been
I'm
taking
in Houston.
Houston.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a phone call I have to take right now.
Okay, sure.
Oh my God! I don't believe this. Help! All a conspiracy. to keep me behind.
Brilliant!
Brilliant! I love that. Where does that come from? Is that a?
I don't know.
Is it
I think
it's great.
it might be the. Is it the Guinness commercial? Maybe. I don't know.
Brilliant!
Probably not.
Potable.
Potable. At least it's not. I mean, if I didn't have my hat on, my head it would be a whole lot more shiny.
Oh, put the hat on. There you go.
Yeah,
That's good. Now, do you have like a veil you can put up? No, I'm just kidding. So, what's this logo on your shirt? I don't recognize that.
Oh, no logos. Oh my God, am I going to be able to do this?
Well, we'll see.
I just put the numbing medication in there, see if that helps.
Oh, okay. Oh, that'll completely freeze up your vocal cords.
Good. Now you know why I wasn't there.
All right. So, what day are you on? Day 2 or day 1?
Day,
or
day 2 or 3.
Okay, me too.
Yeah, where are you? Let's see if I can.
I am in Louisville, Kentucky, at the embassy downtown.
Oh yeah, that's a nice. Now Louisville's a much better layover now that we're seeing that.
Oh, yeah.
Mall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
much
agree. I agree.
Right there in
Much
downtown.
better. Yeah. Right across the street from where we used to stay, probably before you were hired, which was the Seelbach Hotel, a historic property across the street. Really nice. That we were there for many, many years. And then we moved to that hole that you referred to. I've forgotten even what the name of it is. The Galt
House. Yeah.
Galt House. Yeah.
Yeah, place is terrible.
We were there for a long time, too. That's one of the reasons why I never bid Louisville before, because I thought, I don't want to stay in that place.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It was on my void list forever. Until somebody told me, I don't know whether we were on this show or I was flying with somebody, they told me, the change hotels, now it's nice and we're downtown. And I said, well, we were downtown before. It was still
Right.
crappy. They said, no, we're right in that entertainment district. I said, oh, great. That entertainment district that's not entertaining. And,
Yeah, it's just a restaurant district. It's not really entertainment.
yeah, so I said, okay, I'll go back and try it. And I tried it a few weeks ago, and it was actually, the hotel's very nice. So
Yeah, very nice.
no problem with it now.
Let's see. Are you using the USB mic directly into your computer?
I am today, yes.
Okay. Very good. Just want to make sure that your levels are somewhat close, but I can fix it in post.
I'm sorry. That box is too big for me to carry. I'm carrying my food, too, now. Trying to get rid of this girth. I need to.
I'm sorry, you said you were what?
Getting rid of my girth. Trying to get rid of some of this girth. Yes.
That's why I had to do
I
that.
miss you guys. It's been so long.
Yeah, we missed you too. It's been what? 3 weeks since you've been on?
Yeah, I think so. Last week I was supposed to be on, but the reroute gods killed me,
Yeah.
destroyed me actually. And the reason why I'm sick and why I was in London. I guess we'll talk about that later then.
Yep.
By the way, you're quite right, Jeff. That was a Guinness advert.
Oh,
I
good.
found it. Yeah.
Let's listen to some jazz.
I'm going to do this.
I look at you and suddenly
Yeah,
something in your eyes I see soon begins bewitching me. It's that old devil moon that you stole from the skies.
It's that old devil moon in your eyes.
You and your friends make this romance.
Huh? Do I hear a voice of HR?
That was actual HR stuff going on there, which
Oh, actually.
I do not enjoy doing at all. So,
Oh,
and they
You
would
want-
pick after 5 o'clock to call. So,
of course.
of course.
No, Tim, that was one of our APG community members, his wife, Brenda Scott, and Dr. John Brown on the keyboard. And it's a CD they recorded about, 10 or more years ago, called Jazz It Up. And he's from Toronto, very talented. He's a physician, obviously, Dr. John Brown. And anyway, so that was the CD they recorded. All right. Are we ready?
Ready.
Let's
Ready.
give it let's give it a shot. Oh wait, we need to do the clapper again.
Oh, hold on. Let me get that set up. Where are you? Audio check. There we go.
Hillel, I think they've only done one thing, and it just says Brenda Scott Jazz It Up, but I've not been able to find it on CD Baby or iTunes or anything else. I think it's just a private CD. So one of these days, John, if you're listening, I think I asked him to give us some information about how people might be able to get a copy of your fine CD.
I'm ready whenever you're, Jeff. I just got it going now.
So let's get ready to clap. 3, 2, 1, clap. Okay. Let's do it again. Better timing. I did that too slowly. I'm sorry. Sorry. Stop. 3, 2, 1, clap. Okay. Beauty. And
I just realised I didn't have my mic turned on.
Okay. All right, one more time. Last time.
This is it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, clap. Yay. That's the good one right there. Right there. Okay. Here we go. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 308.
Flight 209, you are cleared for takeoff. Roger. 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 632 in the Embassy Suites recording studios in Louisville, Kentucky. In this episode, free beer, a Pegasus 737 crash update, more news, your feedback, and the latest Plain Tales installment, Landomatic. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 308 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast where we talk about aviation news and answer your questions and much, much more. And let's see, I'm a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier based in the Atlanta area, and joining me today from her beautiful lakeside estate in South Carolina, she's a doctor, a skydiver, a marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot. Also head of HR here at the APG, Dr. Stephanie Plummer.
Hello, Captain Jeff. Good to see you again. Seems like I just saw you, but
Yeah.
great to be back here for our show today.
Your voice sounds familiar to me, too.
Doesn't it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted you there. Okay.
No worries.
I think it was because I have that wonderful music in the background that Sir Neville Bounds created for us, and I like listening to that. I like listening to your voice too, though. Sorry. And also joining us from a sprawling country estate southwest of London, professional photographer, former RAF fighter pilot, current captain for an international airline based in London, Captain Nick Anderson.
Stop making so much noise. You're keeping me away.
Sorry.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Steph. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Yeah, great to be joining you at gone 10 o'clock at night in the UK and facing another 3-hour marathon. I can't wait. Thank you very much. This is marvelous. I'm having such a good time.
You're not really very convincing there. Well, anyway, we're happy to see you. And
sure. Thank you
also joining us, from a studio location that he is going to divulge to us shortly, barbecue master, bourbon connoisseur, motorcycle riding pilot for a major U.S. legacy carrier, Captain Dana Colton.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to sound like not my normal self today, and I'm reporting to you from Houston, Texas, downtown at the Marriott Marquis. beautiful afternoon here in the Houston area. However, I just woke up from my nap, so I didn't get to enjoy very much of it. But great to be back and miss everybody. It's been a while, and we'll talk more, I guess, in a little bit.
Okay, very good. And rest your voice up a little bit so we can we'll get all caught up with you here in a moment. But I guess the first thing that we should talk about, and unfortunately, Dana, you hear him. He's still a little bit sick, and he wasn't able to join us in London. But Dr. Steph and Captain Nick and I and a whole bunch of other folks in the PTUK community met up in London. I flew over on Friday, got there Friday morning. I believe that's when Steph and her brothers arrived as well. And we all got together and celebrated the Plain Talking UK podcast's 200th anniversary on Saturday. But we met up with a bunch of people on Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and had a blast. And that's where we'll start with the intro for this show. So what do you think, Steph? Did you have a good time?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, just like Captain Jeff, we got there Friday morning. I went over with my brothers. They had never been to London before, so it wasn't a very long trip for us. We came back home on Sunday, so we had all day Friday to kind of run around the city and kind of do all the touristy things, which I think we managed a good job of doing. Got in around, I don't know, just before 7 a.m. We were able to drop our stuff at the hotel, and then we went back out, kind of started at Buckingham Palace and managed to see changing of the guard there, and then kind of worked our way through London and finally ended up all the way down by Tower Bridge, Tower of London. Excuse me. Starting to sound like Dana a little bit too. And then saw the Crown Jewels. We really looked out on Friday, I think. It was a nice, it was kind of cold and windy, but it was sunny out. So made for getting around the city, made it a little bit easier. But the London weather that I know and love so well every time I come to visit returned on Saturday. It was a little dreary and rainy, but that didn't matter at all because that's when Plain Talking UK's 200th episode was, and we had a great time at their at the 737 flight simulator doing that and meeting everyone and doing the episode with them, and that was great fun. And thanks to those guys for doing such a wonderful job of that.
I was just going to say, Steph, it was January. I mean, what were you expecting?
I have been there in July, and it's been rainy and cold. So
We turned that on specially for you. But
I think so.
January, we just can't avoid it regardless.
Yeah, that kind of weather that we had on Saturday and Sunday is the kind of weather that I was just expecting. And on Friday was absolutely gorgeous. A little chilly, but...
Well, that's what I was saying. It was just really... We got, I think, lucky with a nice day to
we did
run around and see the city. So
and don't forget, all our weather comes from America.
Not from my part of America. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think so.
It does. I think it comes across the Atlantic, and you send it here, and it just dumps on us.
No, but we're just getting what you sent us. That's already been all the way around the world.
Circled around.
No, I don't think that works. You're not going to
Anyway,
Actually, you know what you're getting? You're getting fish urine.
Beg your pardon?
Well, it's coming across the ocean. You're getting fish urine.
fish urine. There's our show title right there.
No idea.
You know, it's not coming anywhere from America. Can't. You have 3,000 miles of ocean, so it's fish urine.
Okay.
Maybe a little feces too.
We missed you, Dana. Where have you been?
Exactly right.
Working. Where have you been?
Oh, now wait a minute. The first week that you weren't with us, a couple episodes ago, you were not working.
I was working very hard.
You were working the bar, maybe working that free
working.
drink card or whatever. Not free, but. So how was that cruise?
Well, I'm not interrupting. Continue with what you're talking about.
Okay.
I'll talk in a minute.
Okay. We'll bounce back over to the PTUK celebration. Well, first of all, the night before, I guess Thursday evening, Captain Nick was up in Cosford, I think, RAF Cosford.
Yeah, that's
right?
up near Manchester. That's the RAF Museum. It's also the place where the RAF Museum exhibits are all maintained. Excuse me. So it's a big engineering base up there, and they do all the work on the exhibits. They preserve stuff that they've dragged out of the ocean. They've got a Dornier there, which is encrusted in salt, and they've done their best to preserve that, although I don't know how successful that will be. It's pretty far gone. They've got a Hudson there, which they're restoring. So it's a fascinating place, brilliant museum, apart from anything else, got some great exhibits. But as you'll probably recall, I was invited to do a talk there. Ably supported, I might say, and thank you very much indeed for Nev, who came up, and then in the audience we found Pip and Adam Spink and
Nev.
Yeah, I mentioned Nev. There was one other,
and there's Nev. Don't forget him.
Yeah, and Nev, and there are about 4 other APG listeners had pitched up. Sadly, who I didn't write down their names, so I'm terribly sorry. I should have done. But I was just all a bit busy. It was all happening a bit quick. And so forgive me for not remembering your names. But however, one of them has sent in some feedback, which was very clever, because we'll get his name out tonight.
All right.
So that talk went well. I was very pleased.
I was able to listen to it because we posted it as an extra crew log, kind of a preview before it's released to the general public. If you're a member of the Coffee Fund cadre, you have already perhaps listened to that wonderful talk that Captain Nick gave at the Royal Aeronautical Society.
Yeah, that was thanks to Nev and his fantastic audio equipment that we've recorded that. And then I've handed the presentation, all the photographs that I showed everyone, and the talk. And Matt from PT UK is very kindly going to marry the two together and turn it into a YouTube video that we will eventually be able to release for everyone to watch. So, and it will make a little more sense, because when I refer to the photographs in the audio, of course, there's nothing for you to see when you've got audio only. It makes a bit more sense when you've got we'll have the pictures there as well.
Cool. Well, you don't want to miss that.
That was a really nice evening. They took us out for a meal afterwards. And then slept, paid for the hotel and slept, and then drove down to PT UK on the Friday to join you guys. So it was, all in all, it was a great 3 days that I had.
Yeah, I got in Friday morning after flying all night, and I met up with Fabian, who flew in from Dusseldorf, Germany. And he had never been to London downtown and seen the sights, and actually I had not either. And so the two of us continued on our day pass on the underground and went to Trafalgar Square and the Parliament Building and saw Big Ben and all the sights that
kind of saw Big Ben, right?
Sort of saw Ben. We saw the actual clock face of
the rest
Big
of it's
Ben.
under scaffolding right now.
Yeah, so. It was all covered up, but we got the kind of the idea. Yeah. Went over the Thames River many times. Saw St. Paul's Cathedral, Westminster Abbey, and all those touristy things. And I was really dragging. Fabian is a much younger man than myself, and I was kind of getting worn out, especially because I only had maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep on the journey over. And so finally, I convinced him that we needed to go back to the hotel because I had this idea that I was going to take a nap. And so I got to the hotel and somebody was saying, Nick and Captain Al and Graham and some others were over. Phil was there as well. They were at what was it called? The King's Arms pub or something.
Yeah, we call it the King's Head, which was a bit of a bum steer. But,
King's Head.
But you eventually found us, damn it.
Yeah, well, Fabian found you guys, and then I was thinking, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take my nap. Well-deserved, I'd say. And then I got this message from Captain Al that basically chided me very uncharitably that I should not be sleeping. I should be over there at the pub with you all, so I didn't get my nap, and you forced me to drink at the pub. But I'm glad you did. So we had a great time. That was just the beginning.
Some okay beers there. It was quite good.
Yeah.
Nice pub.
Then we went over to...
I was starved.
We had a curry over at an Indian restaurant not far from the simulator where the event took place on Saturday. But Friday night, that's where we all, many of us, 20-something of us met at the Taj Mahal restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, a nice audio for the Patreons from the Curry House.
Yes. Yes. See what you're missing out if you're not a member of the Coffee Fund cadre? We'll give you information about how you can join that group, that august group, later here in the show. Yeah, and then, of course, Saturday was the big day. Most of us met for breakfast in the hotel, had a full English breakfast, and then walked over to the venue for the event, the simulator complex. What was the name of a flight experience? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
NP something, right?
Yeah, I didn't catch that part. But anyway, the folks that run the thing and help me with the names, Paul and some other folks over there.
Paul and Nick.
Thank you. Paul and Nick were gracious hosts and our instructors for the simulator, the 737 simulator. And we recorded a show, or actually Matt and Nev and Carlos recorded PTUK 200. And it was a really, really cool setup. So, again, we had a blast. Anything else to add?
Yeah, you're right. It was called Flight Experience, Flight Simulator is the name of it. And you can find it on TripAdvisor, where it's got an excellent rating. And very reasonable to get a session in there if you want to have a go at flying a Boeing. Now, I won't knock it in relation to this because, of course, any airliner would be good if you don't normally fly them. But, of course, anyone with any choice would wait until they get their Airbus A320 simulator in there, which won't be too long in coming, and then you can fly a real airplane.
Yeah, it's coming sometime this year, I believe.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Let's see. It was really, really cool. We've heard about Steph's brothers many, many times, but I've not met them in person, and we got to hang out with them for the 2-3 days over there, and really, really nice meeting your brothers, Steph.
They enjoyed meeting everyone as well. They actually had a very good time.
Good.
Yes.
I was a little worried, that they'd be bored or something, but it seemed like they were enjoying the whole thing.
Nope, they had a great time, and actually, I think while people were taking their turns in the simulator, they found a pub down the street and made several trips down there before we went out to dinner after the show.
Okay, no wonder they were so happy and jovial.
They had a great time.
All right, now Dana.
I have one question. Wow. I have one question. You mentioned they're going to put an Airbus simulator into that building. In the same sentence, a real airplane. Well, when are they going to put Mad Dog simulator in there? Because that's a real airplane.
There you go.
It's a modern simulator, not a museum.
Belongs to Madame Tussauds, I guess.
Yeah, you stick them up there and I'll give them a whack. I don't like that at all.
So tell us, Dana, about that cruise that you took a couple of weeks ago.
Well, first, let me go and say I really missed being in England. I hated that I chose not to come on over, but as you can hear, I'm not under the weather as bad as I would have been under the weather if I had gone to England and done a 24-hour turnaround within flying both ways over the ocean. So it just wasn't. I didn't have it in me. So I'm in some respects very disappointed that I didn't get to go, because it sounds like you guys had an absolutely fantastic time. I certainly would have been loving to be there for PTUK's 200th episode. That's really the whole reason why I wanted to go. But I do apologize to you guys for not being there. Enough said on that. I'm already bummed out enough as it is. Going to
No, we didn't really have that much of a good time. It was really kind of a bore.
Yeah, so fun of bull malarkey. So anyways, cruise was, let's see, what do I remember of it? Not a whole lot.
Apparently you used that drinking coupon or whatever you had well.
Well, it was all you could drink, kind of like going to a Chinese food buffet, and they say, you eat too much, you leave now. Well, they can't throw me off the boat, but it's $43 a day plus an $18% gratuity, and you can walk up and have as many drinks as you want. So first day started off a little motion on the ocean there. I have to venture to guess. I didn't look at the final tally, but myself alone over 7 days, probably in the area of 120-ish drinks or more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Wow.
I guess you got your money's worth.
I really got my money. But the problem was I was with 16 other people. Every one of them a drinker and a partier, and we had an absolutely fantastic time. The ship itself, mixed reviews. The thing is just too stinking big, too many people. There was 6,400 people on the boat, and a lot of them were foreigners. And I don't know if they had vacation going on over in Europe or what was going on, but normally that boat doesn't carry that many people, but it's because everybody had their kids on board. And when I tell you there were kids everywhere, there were kids everywhere. So normal capacity on that boat, 2 per room, is only 5,200. So we were way overmaxed.
Wow.
The shows on the boat, fantastic. Broadway, Mamma Mia, Broadway, Mamma Mia. And a very big surprise when we got on the first night, I heard some piano music, and I said, my wife and I would love listening to live piano in a singer. And we're walking up there. It's a one deck above on the ship. I'll describe the ship here in a second. And we're walking down towards the piano bar, and I said, geez, that sounds awful familiar. And as we walked closer, it was the same piano player that we had on the Cuba cruise. He is fantastic. His name's Greg, and he's actually from France and lives in England and went to the conservatory in England, I think is what it was called, for his training. Fantastic. So we enjoyed the entire week with him. The best way I can describe this boat, other than being 400 people on there, is you take 2 towers, put it on each side of the boat, join them at the front, and have an open back, and leave the middle completely empty. They put so much in the middle. They put a promenade, which is a 2-story open for about I don't know, maybe a football field length, open 2-story with restaurants, bars, shopping, your customer service. Then they have this bar in the middle that goes up and down 3 stories as you're sitting there floating, almost like a saucer, a spaceship. And then that would go up to the third 3-story deck 8, which was park, the Central Park, which was can believe on a ship, living plants. They had living trees, plants all over. It was like you were stepping into Central Park, New York, with sidewalk cafes, restaurants, bar. It was phenomenal. And on the back of the ship on deck 6, back part of it that's still open, was an open deck called the Boardwalk, and they had a moving carousel. And way in the back of the ship, they had a big open aqua theater where they had divers doing this unbelievable show at sea, diving from, I think it was about 35 feet in the air into a small pool, maybe that's 15 feet wide. It was quite daring. They had to cancel quite a bit because the cruise itself, we had a lot of rough weather, a lot of rough seas, and most of the crews had to wear my jacket if I went outside because it was chilly. That massive cold front, massive freeze that came down through the U.S. eastern seaboard went all the way down to the Caribbean. It was even chilly down on the islands. So, well, I wouldn't say chilly compared to New York, but I would say Boston. I would say chilly, like not in the normal mid to upper 80s, in the upper 70s. So, all in all, it was a great trip. Then came back, and as you hear me now, we had a little snowstorm in the following week when I went back to work. Started off the trip with a 4-hour delay going to San Antonio with an ice storm. As soon as we got back, well, before we even left Atlanta, I got rerouted, which was 8.5 hours before we got back to Atlanta. Captain went pretty much on his original rotation. They took me off mine. I don't understand why. Ended up flying with 4 different captains over a 3-day period, and one of which I know you've heard this term before, most of you. Ever hear of a white slip? White slip is when you pick up an extra trip on your days off for regular pay, no overtime, not a green slip, which you've heard Captain Jeff talk about. This guy shows up and he's hooting and hollering sick. And he starts talking and say, "Yeah, I'm sick, but I figured I'd pick it up. I'm almost over it." And I picked up this white slip and I looked at him and I said, "You did what? And you're still sick? Are you out of your mind?" So my off days spent sick. I feel okay now because I've been on antibiotics several days, but I ended up festering into a nice infection and costing me the trip to London. So, anyways, that's what's happened for me for the last couple of weeks. And I'm fortunate to be back here. I am working. I don't feel bad. I sound bad, but I don't feel bad. I feel absolutely perfectly fine. Just been resting quite a bit, and happy to be here.
Excellent. How's the weather there in Houston today?
It's a beautiful day. Unfortunately, I went out for a great lunch. I figured I'd try to massage my voice with a little bit of pho for those folks that's Vietnamese soup. Very close cousin to the Jewish penicillin, which is what I would normally have, chicken soup, to hopefully massage the voice a little bit. Just had some, if you're watching the show, you can see I have chloroseptic. I'm trying everything for my voice to be here normal. So I came back afterwards. I was going to go work out for a little while. I laid down on the couch to lay down in the bed for a couple minutes. The next thing you know, I was supposed to be up at in time to start the show at 4:30 local time, about 4:45 East Coast time. I woke up, realized that the show had already started.
Well, actually, it had not quite yet. We were almost ready to start.
You're almost ready to start. Yeah. But yeah, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, getting some good rest and finish up the trip tomorrow. Hillel, I was in Baltimore last night, Hillel. I didn't contact you for the reason why you're hearing is because my voice. And I did not want to take the chance of passing it on, but I did go to my favorite restaurant in Baltimore. I went over there to a fantastic Italian restaurant. Nino is the owner. You've heard me talk about it before, and that's La Scala in Little Italy. It's unbelievable.
Little Italy.
Yeah. Again, it didn't disappoint. So, awesome. And on another note, I haven't had one drink. Oh no, that's a lie. I had. Patriots were playing Sunday. I tried to hydrate a little bit with a little bit of vodka on Sunday, but since the cruise, I have not had any drinks, and I don't plan on drinking anytime soon.
Love it. Hydrate with vodka.
Yeah. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Except there's another large football game coming up on February 4th, I believe.
Really? I thought the football was all over with.
I think it's over. I mean,
well, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Maybe Premier League is over. I don't know. I haven't been following that. But there is one more game. It's I'm not playing with my brassiere here, but I am highlighting in the video the logo that I'm wearing. That's the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl.
What a surprise. The New England Patriots are back in the Super Bowl again.
yay.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm looking forward to watching that because I always like the mid-game adverts because they're really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what people usually just watch the Super Bowl for. Yeah.
And then there's some people like me that actually like watching the game and the commercials. So it's like win-win for me.
Is Janet Jackson in this one?
No, I don't think so.
No,
No expositions.
Justin Timberlake is. So
Oh.
there.
All right. Oh, that should be fun. Okay. Excellent. So, Steph, were you involved in any kind of a meetup since our last show?
I was. So, listeners may remember that Corey, one of our listeners who is starting a new job as a first officer for a regional carrier, actually wrote us a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think. And he was going to be being interviewed by the CBS Evening News while he was here in Charlotte and trying to also figure out a time to meet up with me. Unfortunately, I was pretty busy during those last couple weeks I was also on a cruise and then we were in London. Fortunately, it worked out that he's just about wrapping up, but last night we were able to get together for a quick drink and some barbecue, and we recorded a little feedback. So.
Well, hey everyone, it's Dr. Steph, and I am here in Charlotte, North Carolina at Mac's Speed Shop. Just finished up an awesome dinner with our listener, Corey, and he's in town to do some of his initial training. He's going to be working as a pilot, and I will let him tell you more about that. I don't know if I'm actually allowed to say his company or anything like that, but I'll let him fill you in on the details here in just a second. So take it away, Corey. Tell us what you've been up to and what you're doing and what you'll be flying and all of that good stuff.
All right, this is Corey. Thank you, Dr. Steph. Hey, APG crew, APG community. So, like Dr. Steph said, I'm down here for initial training on the ERJ 145. I'm going to be working for a wholly owned subsidiary of American, one of the three, and the smaller one of the three, and the carryover from U.S. Airways. So if you can do the math, you can figure out who that is, pacemaker. So I have exactly 2 days left here. I leave on Thursday, so that'll be 1 day left by the time you guys hear this. And so just completed systems, took the systems written, took the procedures test, and I have it written on procedures. And then when I'm done that, I'll go home for a short break and have a come back for sims, either in Charlotte, Dallas, or Houston, or many other places. I don't know yet. They just go wherever they tell me. So we'll find out, and I'll keep you guys updated. But I'll try for 100 next time. I know 97's not up to your standards, but we'll do our best.
Hey, so you're a quasi-celebrity now, too, I heard. I think you sent us some feedback about that the other day. I don't think we have a date for when the interview is airing, but you did a little piece with, was it CBS Evening News, about pilot shortages and whatnot, and hopefully when we have that information about when it airs, we can pass that along so people can watch and hear what you had to say about all of that.
Yes, so so I had my interview today with CBS Nightly News. They had me in this simulator talking about various things, how I became a pilot and all that good stuff. They asked me about the pilot shortage. I didn't really want to say too much about that. You know, I got to keep everybody happy. But so that went well today. And about when it's going to be airing, they don't have an air date, but our PM, or our, not PM, our HR, or one of the people at public relations, public relations manager, she will reach out to me if she remembers my email and let me know when that's going to be airing. So when I find that out, I'll pass it along to Dr. Steph and the rest of you, so we can all hear me mumble on TV.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to hearing that. But anyway, it was great hanging out with you again. Awesome dinner tonight. Good beers, good company, good conversation as always. And if you're back here in Charlotte for your sim stuff, I'm sure we'll do it again. All right. So anyway, we'll hand it back over to the show and talk to you all very soon. Bye.
Excellent. That was our on-location reporter, Dr. Steph.
That's right. And just for Nev, it's funny, when we were over in London, he just said, make sure you guys say awesome, because we love it when the Americans say awesome. I think I said the word awesome about 4 times in that. So
I think I've said it a couple times already on the show, and I thought to myself, oh, oops. It's an awesome show. I
don't even notice when it happens. It's just ingrained in my vocabulary. So
yeah.
Wow. Make America awesome again.
Wow.
Oh, Neville says in the chat room, awesome, in all caps.
But my thanks again to Corey for a great meetup last night. Good conversation as always. And congrats to him on getting through that far in his training and a little bit left to go. So he's going to keep us updated.
Yep. Fingers crossed.
And you know what? Even if we miss the the actual air date, I'm sure that we can find a copy of the video online, and I'll snag the audio from that, and we'll be able to play it on the show on a future episode. All right. Let's anything else before we move on to we'll do a quick coffee fund thing and then move on to news. What do you think?
Nope.
Let's do it.
Go for it.
Nothing for
All
me.
right. Let's do it. And if I can find it, here we go.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love
of the APG community. Come on, sing along. Tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. I can hear you all. All right. But Coffee Fun, the Java Jive, that's what we play when we talk about the Coffee Fun, and we've already mentioned it a few times in the intro here today. One of the perks of becoming a Coffee Fun Cadre member is you get access to the APG crew logs, and we recorded several of those in the last couple of weeks, kind of talking about what we're doing behind the scenes and little extras here and there, and early access to things like the talk that Captain Nick did at the Royal Aeronautical Society. And so all you have to do is head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee, and there you'll learn about the couple different ways to participate in the Coffee Fund. And that is the classic method and also the Patreon method. Let's start off with the classic method, which is basically a PayPal donation. And you can make a one-time donation, or you can make it a recurring donation as well, as several people have done. And since the last show, we've received donations via the classic Coffee Fund method from Richard Adams, Chris Randall, and Moxie Connor. And also Patreon. You can become a patron of the show, give at least $1 per episode, and you can have access to the APG crew logs. And since the last show, we have a couple of people that have been around in the APG community for quite some time. Masha in the Netherlands, Masha Gertz. Philip M. Matinsky or something like that. Have you ever heard of that guy? Philip. Sounds familiar to me. Oh, that's Pip. Pip is a patron of the show. Thank you, sir. And Mike Macaluso is also a new producer of the show, a patron via patreon.com. So if you want to join the great gang of people, please head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. We'll see you there. It loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh, yeah.
Stand by for news.
Just between you and me, I think the reason why Pip joined is because he heard that we were saying bad things about him on the APG crew logs, which may or may not be true. But now...
yeah, but now we'll have to pick someone else to say bad things.
Yeah, somebody else that's not a member.
Sorry.
Okay, that's, of course, just a joke. And it was great seeing you, Pip. And, wow, watch the PTUK 200th episode, where you'll see Pip in all his glory announcing the Chicken Nugget Challenge. He was in rare form, for sure. Okay.
And the trophy is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks,
yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Well, I guess we don't want to steal anything from...
Nah, watch PTUK episode 200.
Yeah, but let me just put it this way. Steph is the champion this year for the chicken nuggets, at least so far.
And Pip nearly lost a finger.
Yeah, well, Steph should know better than wait, Pip should know. Well, I don't know. I'm confused. All right, news. Here we go. First thing in our news folder is a kind of an update. We talked about this on an earlier show, where unfortunately, Flight Lieutenant Sean Cunningham died after he was ejected from his aircraft in 2011 while on the ground at RAF Scranton, and the ejection seat...
Scampton.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scampton. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, Scranton. Yeah, that's the office in the U.S. takes place in Scranton, PA. Oh, wait a minute. That's not the same place, is it?
No.
No. Okay. RAF Scampton. Thank you. The ejection seat firm, Martin Baker, admitted breaching health and safety laws over the death of the Red Arrows pilot. And the parachute on the seat did not deploy, and the South African-born airman was fatally injured. And so the firm is due to be sentenced on the 12th of February. And again, we've talked about it extensively on an earlier show or shows, but it was just a tragedy that it was kind of an accident. I think they think that the something like a seat belt or something had accidentally moved the arming hardware on the seat, and accidentally the seat accidentally fired while he was doing the pre-flight on the ground.
Yeah, it looked like the seat handle, with the ejector seat initiation handle, had been moved slightly out of its housing, which when it was far enough out, it wasn't really obvious it was out, but it did allow the safety pin to be put in position because it was like underneath the handle rather than in the center of the handle, where it would have located through a hole in the handle and prevented the handle from moving. So somebody had managed to dislodge the handle. The pin was apparently in position. He must have moved it a bit further and activated it, and then it's a kind of double whammy, isn't it? The seat fired. He would have been fine, but due to a administrative error, it seems that a requirement for them to check the tension of a nut in the scissor shackle that allows the main parachute to deploy hadn't been issued to the Royal Air Force. It had gone to everyone else, but somehow they'd been missed off the distribution, which is just an administrative cock-up. And they hadn't checked the tension of this bolt. It was too tight. The parachute didn't deploy, and the poor guy died. I can't say I entirely agree with the coroner's findings when he said that the seat safety mechanism was entirely useless. It obviously wasn't, since the safety mechanism, when correctly positioned on a handle that hasn't been partially pulled, worked perfectly. It didn't work in this case, but to say it's entirely useless for all the thousands upon thousands of these seats that are out there and haven't had a problem, I think is something of an exaggeration. But I suspect what we're getting here is just the BBC's précis of his words there.
Mm-hmm. And so this was a 00 seat. So if the tightening of that nut if they had received the information about that nut tightening thing, there's a good chance that even if he had accidentally ejected himself on the ground, that he would have been able to survive that event.
That's exactly right. And of course, it is something that every pilot needs to look at very carefully when they climb in. An ejector seat is not an ordinary seat; it's a loaded gun, and everyone who goes near one has to understand that. And we all did, when I was in the service, did our safety checks rigorously and carefully. But having said that, the movement of the ejector seat handle, such that it was slightly out of its housing, wasn't easy to spot. And the fact that the safety pin, could be put into position with the ejector seat handle slightly out of position was very bad news for everybody, because that pin really shouldn't have been able to go in there. They should have perhaps modified it so that it couldn't happen. But it means anticipating that someone's going to pull the handle almost to the point of firing the seat, but not quite, and then try and put the pin in. So that's real tough. The fact is that Martin Baker are a brilliant company, in my opinion. They've saved so many lives. They have thousands upon thousands of seats out there, and they're usually only asked to work once in the whole seat's life, and generally speaking, they are fantastically reliable. Unfortunately, in this case, they let themselves down.
Yeah.
So I have a question, actually. Does that mean that there are certain types of, or different types of ejection seats out there that are not 00 that would not be able to?
Yeah, all the earlier ones, and ones that are probably fitted to lightweight aircraft that don't have the capability to carry a rocket pack, would be not 00. All the ones I trained in, all those jet seats I trained in, the Jet Provost and the Hunter and the Nat, they were 090 seats. So You could eject at sea level, eject on the ground, but it had to be doing at least 90 knots of forward airspeed because the seat only had the gun. It didn't have the rocket pack. The gun would fire you clear enough, but you needed that forward speed in order to get the main parachute to deploy in time.
Same thing with the...
Sorry, Jeff?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, once you're slower than 90 knots, that wouldn't happen, and you'd have hit the ground with a partially deployed parachute, which obviously could have well have been fatal. But
and the T-37 had the same kind of thing where it was just kind of popped a charge that kind of got you out of the airplane, but it required a minimum altitude and a minimum speed for it to be effective because it did not have a rocket booster in there.
Yeah, and even a 0-0 seat, you still, if you're descending fast enough towards the ground, you still need to eject with a suitable altitude because if you took 1/10 of your rate of descent, that was the minimum height above ground you had to eject. So if you were, pulling through a loop and you decided that you weren't going to make it and you're going to eject, if you had 10,000 feet a minute rate of descent, you needed to eject at 1,000 feet because obviously everything's going downwards, including the seat.
Exactly.
And the seat needs that extra height to deploy and everything to work. But they're getting better all the time, and I hope this doesn't besmirch Martin Baker's reputation too much.
I don't think it will. I'm going to skip over the second item there in the news and move to this one, but we'll go back to it. Let's try do the update on the Pegasus 737 runway excursion in Trabzon, Turkey. This is from Nick, First Officer Nick from Acme Holiday. He says, "Hi, Steph, Jeff, Nick, and Dana. The following text was sent to me by a colleague via WhatsApp. He got it from someone else. I found it also on the internet. I don't know where the information really comes from, but maybe there's a little truth to it. Feel free to use it or not." So we're going to use it, Nico, and this actually makes sense. Again, this is not from a verified news source, but here is what we see here in this text. The first officer was the pilot flying. Weather was at minimums. They were expecting to see the runway at minimums. At minimums, they did see the runway. First officer disengages the autopilot, but at the same time presses the toga buttons. Captain takes over, lowers the nose, retards both thrust levers to idle. They land at idle thrust, and the aircraft was dispatched with one reverser in op. The captain deploys the thrust reverser of the left engine and releases the right engine thrust lever. Since he hadn't disconnected the auto throttle, the right engine goes to toga thrust. Aircraft starts to accelerate. It skids off the runway to the left. The right engine separates. All passengers evacuate the aircraft from the rear door. No smoke in the cabin and no injuries. And First Officer Nico says, "Thanks for all the work you do for the community. Bye from Germany." And so, I mean, that actually sounds very, very plausible to me.
Yeah, I remember Miami Rick. Remember that chat we used to have on years ago? He had described pilots who rejected, and every time they took the hands off the throttles would open up again because they hadn't disconnected the auto thrust properly. And that sounds exactly like what happened with this guy. The auto thrust was trying to go back to the previous speed, so opening the throttles every time the guys let go of them. And I have to say, I've talked about my confusion over the way Boeing's have designed their auto thrust system after that 777 accident with the takeoff go around buttons. And again, this is another one. I really do think that perhaps that needs to be looked at, that way of operating. It doesn't seem very logical to me at times.
And I have no experience with Boeing autothrottle systems because the 727 that I flew, the only Boeing that I've flown, did not have autothrottles. So, the pilot was the autothrottle system.
Sometimes the best way.
Yeah.
The simplest method, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right. And then finally, we have this, Liz. found this for us. Let's see. American Airlines announced today that they will be having hourly shuttles between Chicago and New York City starting in April. They also promise free beer and wine. Yay, party!
Sounds like I'm going to be taking some trips to New York and Chicago.
They don't mention it's Keystone Light, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, it's free. Whatever. It tastes great.
Keystone Light and boxed wine.
I love it. How long would that flight be, Jeff?
Oh, what would that be? About a 2.5 hour,
2.5 hours,
three,
probably.
yeah.
All right. Well, they're only going to get up and down the aisle twice then, so you get 2 beers.
Yeah, that's true. Unless you say, give me 3. I'll just start with 3 right now. Just put them right there. Give me a bucket.
They offer New Belgium Voodoo Ranger IPA.
Ooh,
So
nice.
That sounds
Actually, I don't know if they will on this flight, but they do have it normally.
Right.
So.
They plan on flying between the two cities 15 times per day. The route will fly back and forth from LaGuardia and Chicago's O'Hare, both American airline hubs. American Airlines didn't think offering the most flights on the route was enough to really entice business travelers. American Airlines will be giving out free beer and wine, even in economy. So, anyway, we'll put a link to this in the show notes if you want to.
So all the
look at
business travelers can show up to the meetings drunk, right?
it. Yes.
I think they probably do already, don't they?
Probably.
It's a different type of line of work than we're all in. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I can't wait to
All
see
right.
the first doctors' conference that goes on that route.
Yeah,
as long as
those
they're not actually going to directly to the operating room.
doctors' conferences.
Exactly right.
Or the clinic, or the office.
We know all about those doctors' conferences.
Yeah, like in
Medical.
Park City, Utah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, sure.
Looking forward to that one.
You doing it again this year, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I have in the news folder. Kind of a quiet news week, and it has been quiet for a while, which is good, which means that there haven't been a lot of crashes and incidents and stuff. So that gives us more time to concentrate on the best part of the show, which, of course, is your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Incoming message. Thank you. Let's start off with, I hit the wrong folder here. Hang on. It is from John. John sent me some email. He says, hello there. I noticed on airlinepilotguy.com/117, the episode 117, that you reference an article about flying cars. I would like to get your feedback regarding an article that I just published, which is all about the progress people have made and what is currently available on the market regarding flying cars. Oh, I should have played my little flying car sound effect, which I cannot find. Oh, well. I'll put it in post. Maybe.
You won't. I know.
No.
I won't. Yeah. But I talked about it.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Hang on.
Just
Let me see if I
imagine
can
your
find
own flying car in your head.
it. Let's see. I think now that I'm on the right soundboard. Nope, it's not in this one either.
Oh, where have the Jetsons gone?
Oh, here. No. Jetsons. Where are you? Huh. Oh, well.
Well, it's in the
A
future. That's
double
why you
missed
can't find
opportunity.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Anyway, he gave us a link to the article, and he said it would be great to know your personal opinion on the article, and if you find it useful, please consider linking to it from the page of yours. Also, if you prefer, you may republish the article. So, John, we're going to put this link in our show notes, where hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people will see it. Not really. He published this on the 26th of December, which is a very important date. Of last year, since the very first. Yeah, excuse me.
I was going to say that day will live in infamy.
Will it?
Yes.
It's
Infamy. They've all got
your
it
birthday.
infamy.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's my birthday.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. Where is the? Oh, never mind.
Happy birthday to you.
No. So anyway, let me just read a little bit of the first part of the article here, and then you can read the rest of it yourself. Since the very first science fiction hit the shelves, the world has fantasized about flying objects. For nearly a century, books, radio dramas, movies, and television shows have depicted flying cars as the most famous the most famous flying car to date. Probably Doc Brown's flying DeLorean, the time machine from the movie franchise Back to the Future. The movie's second installment, originally set in the year 2015, introduced the concept of flying cars for every family. Of course, this is just fiction. The real question is, how close are we as a society to creating and introducing flying cars? And then he goes in and talks about the development of cars and what different companies are doing as far as designs and how far they've gotten so far. And then how much they all cost, which let me just tell you, it isn't cheap. I think for flying cars to be something that we're going to see all over the place, these things are going to have to be a lot less expensive. And, of course, he talks about some other drawbacks like legislation, regulation, and all kinds of stuff. So, good article. That's my personal opinion. I thought it was well written, John. And I'm sure that our community will read it as well and be able to send you some feedback regarding it as well.
What I particularly like about that article is that there's a picture of a lady in a full armored up suit in this flying car, as if she's.
It's like a convertible flying car.
It's convertible, and she's ready to crash or something because she's in almost like it looks like a full body suit of armor.
Yeah. Is that like a human or a humanoid or what is that?
Very pretty if it's a humanoid.
Yeah, she's pretty. She's got a nice figure at least.
I was just going to make the point that Doc Brown's flying DeLorean really ought to be better known for the fact that it went back in time, not just because it flew. Flying is actually fairly insignificant.
Well, let's not get picky about it.
Go back in time. That's a little harder.
I do like the reference to a quote from Elon Musk. Let's see. Inventor and engineer Elon Musk makes a very valid point that, quote, there is a challenge with flying cars in that they'll be quite noisy. The wind force generated will be very high. Let's just say that it's something, if something's flying over your head, if there are a whole bunch of flying cars all over the place, that is not an anxiety-reducing situation. You don't think to yourself, well, I feel better about today. You're thinking, did they service their hubcap? Or is it going to come off and guillotine me as they're flying past?
Yeah, and considering the amount of rubbish that people toss out their cars, the last thing I want to do is have my garden full of Starbucks cups and empty curry wrappers.
Yeah.
Shoot, people don't even want to drive their cars now. They want, self-driving cars. Why do they want cars that they can also fly?
Well, I think they want self-flying cars.
Okay.
Self-flying car, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Mind you, I noticed that there was another Tesla crash into the back of a fire truck this time.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Didn't see that.
Another autopilot
See that
crash.
one? No.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I read a good article very recently about the fact that the big hurdle that we're going through right now with the self-driving cars is this reliance on automation. Hey, where have we heard that before? Where people are they're not fully automated yet and fully autonomous. So, but people are kind of treating some people are treating these vehicles as if they are. And I think there was a recent incident where somebody was driving a Tesla and they were like 2 times or 3 times over the legal limit for drinking, and they were passed out. And the car was just driving on its own down the freeway.
And it'll just drive forever until you
Love it.
come to and stop it.
Well, we actually talked about automation, how it fails on this very show.
Yeah.
It
does.
The Turkish crash. You don't select the right mode and the automation, it can run the airplane off the runway. Well, how ironic.
Yeah. Very, very good point. All right. Well, thanks, John. And again, people can find a link to your article in the show notes. Mary says, I've been listening to APG since Catholic Pilot Guy episode 1. And it was just actually Catholic Pilot. Episode 1, so definitely have the APG syndrome. Yes, you do, Mary, I'm sorry. I have never, however, sent in feedback that I can remember, or that she'll admit to. I meant to send this closer to the time, November 19th, 2017, but was out on an interesting local incident for the American Red Cross. It was a small plane crash into a house in San Jose from the local GA airport, Reed Hillview Airport. The 3 people on the plane were injured, but no one in the house was hurt. The people in the house were displaced, however, for a while. I was there just as the NTSB and the FAA were arriving on scene. And then she included a picture of this Cessna 172 that crashed in the front yard of a house in the area. And she sent a link of the article about the small plane crashing into the San Jose home. So we'll put that
Do you
in the
mean
show notes.
there's one less 172 out there now?
I guess so, yeah.
Am I
Appears
going to have
that
to
way.
change the stats in my plane tail?
Well, unless they can find
this
another
one
wing.
again.
Yeah,
Oh.
you think so?
I think they can fly that one again. No one
Yeah, it
can.
looks like in pretty good shape, except for maybe the wing. Yeah. No?
Maybe.
No, it should be
Maybe.
right.
I don't know that it's worth the
the tail.
cost of
The tail
fixing.
is the tail is sagging. The cargo
There's definitely
door.
some.
The cargo door is cracked open because it's probably bent open.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not using that again.
Oh, okay. Well, what a loss.
I don't think it'll affect your statistics too significantly, though, Nick.
Oh,
Hopefully.
good. I'm glad about that. Thanks.
Yeah, a minor blip. Speaking of a minor blip, well, it wasn't really a minor blip. That storm, Grayson, that hit the east coast, well, Florida, and then went up the southeastern coast and eventually up toward New York as well. Winter Storm Grayson, the first week of this year. Let's see. This was sent to us by Captain Robson. He says, my name is Robson, and I fly an executive Learjet 40 in Brazil. I'm for a long time your listener, but it's the first time I send a feedback. I think that I've been contaminated by the APG syndrome. You know what? That's the second time that we've heard somebody say something about. I think it's time. Yeah, should we play this?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
APG syndrome.
Bad case of love.
APG syndrome. There you go. So, he's been contaminated by it because I already heard all the podcast episodes. Wow. I received this audio in an aviation WhatsApp group and found interesting, so I decided to share it with you guys. It pretends to be an ATIS. Oh, I thought it was a real one. Darn it. An AT automated terminal information service from John F. Kennedy International Airport. And this was put out by ATC Memes, and I think we need to listen to it because it's quite funny.
JFK International Airport. Automated weather observation. 1612 Zulu. Wind 150 at 55 gusting to 70. Visibility variable over 120 seconds between 5 miles and 0.6 millimeters. Sky conditions whiteout condition at 5 feet. Temperature -3, dew point -3, altimeter 2771. Remarks. Due to intense winter storm Grayson, all traffic to and from the airport is currently suspended. With the exception of Allegiant, who probably won't hear this because their radios are inoperative, and Alaska Airlines because, well, they're from fucking Alaska. Be advised. Due to the increasing wind speeds, blowing snow, and risk of severe shrinkage, the 1700 Zulu annual Jamaica Bay polar plunge at the end of runway 22 right is suspended until further notice. All aircraft equipped with more than 3 engines are advised to park with their tails facing the terminal due to the likely event that the terminal will lose heating ability and will be requesting alternative means. Caution. Due to the nature of this alternative heating strategy, blowing snow, ice, glass, concrete, vehicles, and airport personnel are possible. All flight crews looking for hot food are advised that Buffalo Wild Wings in Terminal 4 still has the hottest food around. They also have the hottest waitresses, especially Alexis. Well, I used to know, before I got that fucking restraining order. Anyway, moving right along here. Currently there are 3 water main breaks that have been reported at various locations on the field causing severe icing. Most notable the one at the west side of the field that has turned Taxiway Quebec into what is essentially an Olympic ice skating rink. Wait, what the f*** was that? Well, looks like we got Old Faithful going off at the intersection of Yankee and Juliet, so make that 4 water main breaks. Correction, that is Jet A fuel. Roll the trucks. LOL, just kidding, all of the trucks are currently buried under an ever-increasing 70-foot plus snow pile. All aircraft at the GA terminal, please be advised that the ramp is currently being used as a staging area for Jim Cantori and the Weather Channel. Holy shit, thunder snow. Sorry. Complimentary hot vodka is being served at the end of Terminal 3.
Hot vodka.
All flight crews are encouraged to check Tinder for possible connections between flight attendants and other crew members, as there is a good chance you will be stuck here for a few days and there is no better way to warm up to the beautiful city of Queens during a historic snow event than with a sketchy date who probably has some tattoo of some random date or guy's name on it. By the way, swipe right on any girl with a nose ring, just trust me. Okay, sorry, my ADHD is getting the best of me on this weather report, but it's getting me so excited to tell you about it. Oh shit, I just realized I think I confused the Viagra and the Adderall XR again. My wife is going to kill me. For flight crews looking for the shortest route to the nearest available hotel room, it is most likely the Van Wyck to Kew Gardens, which should take you approximately 19 days 4 hours and 21 minutes to arrive at your destination. Recalculating. Due to the ice and snow currently stuck to the north side of the control tower, visibility to runway 13 left is completely obstructed, and not possible. The current runway in use is runway 13 left. Be advised on initial contact you have information 0 kilo, as in, Kelvin. Stay warm out there, kids. From all of us at ATC Memes.
That was very clever.
Very good.
Now, I had to do some editing.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of editing.
Yeah. But I thought it was very cute. Very cute.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Alexis, one of the hot waitresses at Buffalo Wild Wings. The restraining order.
Very good.
That was
Anyway.
genius.
Yeah. Captain Robson, thank you for pointing us in that direction. That was very, very funny. Let's see. Let's continue on. Matt has a great question for us. He says, "Hi, folks. When Acme merged with Acme Up Left and maybe Acme Red in the future, buying the remaining 51%, which I don't think can happen unless they change the laws, how does it work seniority-wise? If you're a pilot number 1 in Acme Red with, say, 10,000 hours and you merge with Acme, do you merge in at pilot 1 or 2 level, or is it depending on the 10,000 hours? So you may go from pilot number 1 to pilot number 5,000 in hours levels, or is it a combination of both? Would Nick be senior to Jeff just based on his age? Thanks in advance, Matt."
Nick will always be senior to Jeff based
Yes.
on his age.
He is always my senior. I always defer to Captain Nick.
Not through ability or anything else, just got more grey hair. And
Nah.
my joints are worse.
He only has a couple of years on me, so it really depends. I hate to answer this kind of question like that, but with an airline based on seniority and the mergers, there are some good seniority list integration schemes that have happened in the past, and there have been some horrible ones. For instance, last night we were in Norfolk, Virginia, kind of partying with an American Airlines crew, but most of these American Airlines employees were previously with TWA, and the captain at the table was one of the luckier ones because he was a captain at TWA, and so he was somewhat integrated into their seniority list at American when the merger occurred. However, I think all the first officers were basically stapled to the bottom of the list. So it didn't matter how many years they had with TWA or how many hours they had. They basically just got stuck at the bottom of the stack. A merger such as Acme and Acme North, or Acme South and Acme North, was actually a pretty good one. The unions got together and came up with a pretty reasonable plan of how the seniority would be integrated. And you couldn't go just specifically on longevity, nor could you go specifically on your position at your previous airline. But it was a complicated formula, and I think they did a pretty good job of getting everybody within about 0.5% to 1% of where they were with the pre-merger airline. And as far as I know, I'm not sure if any airlines use how many hours you have as a factor for where you would end up in a seniority. It's mostly about when you were hired, and I guess sometimes about what equipment that you're on at the time of the merger. I don't know. That's about all I have to say about that. I'm sure there's a lot more to say. So go ahead, Dana, jump in.
Yeah, I was going to say the Green Book and Red Book guys from the North Side, Northwest, when they merged with Republic, they had, I think, a 10 or 20-year fence. No, it was 10-year fence. So their merger was not so good, and it wasn't based on anything other than where you sat, as you just mentioned, in seniority in the aircraft that you were flying. So let's say there was a captain, a guy hired at Northwest and been there 5 years, and the guy that was over at Republic been there 20 years, captain on DC-9, and the Northwest guy was the first officer flying DC-10. Well, he could upgrade to be a captain on the DC-10, where the Republic guy was stuck in the captain seat on the DC-9 or similar. So they had a long time fence. I agree with you that the Acme North and South merger is the best in history, and it's going to be a model for hopefully for future. And I'm not sure if pre-American with the U.S. here, whether the America West and U.S. Air guys have actually worked out that seniority list or not. I'd have to look that up. But that was a contentious issue for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And as of the American merger, U.S. Air American merger had not been worked out. But American has, well, I shouldn't say American. Well, I guess I can say American.
Yeah.
Has had a history of stapling. They did the same thing to the Reno Air guys, and they have not been fair. And for the most part, and they definitely weren't fair to the TWA guys. So, but anyways, mergers are not pretty. Not in almost. I agree with you. They're almost 100% based on data hire, as everything is predicated in our business, all data hire.
Yeah.
In my experience, apart from what you guys have said, which is all absolutely correct, and there have been a few mergers, it's quite common that the senior company buying out the junior company just doesn't give them anything. It just puts them at the bottom. But more and more common is to integrate an airline as a separate entity. So they join on a completely separate contract. And that way they don't integrate them at all. They almost have their own little company to work in within the big company. Sometimes they put them all off to a basing somewhere and say, right, well, you run your little empire out of there, and we're just going to be an overall umbrella airline. But it depends entirely on the type of takeover or merger, and each one will be different to another.
Yeah. There's no one size fits all in this world of airline mergers and seniority list mergers and all that, and usually it's a mess.
Yep.
So, good question though. I wish I could be more definitive about it, Matt, but that's where we are with that sort of stuff. Phil sent in a question for Dana. He says, "Hi, APG crew. My name is Phil, and I'm a CRJ 200, 700, 900 first officer for a massive U.S. regional airline. I have a question for Dana. While the CRJ series, especially the 700 and 900, have more modern avionics than a Mad Dog, as you must remember, they do not have autothrottles or GPS VNAV capability. Climb and descent planning and power management is done manually with the aid of FMS-generated VSR, which stands for Vertical Speed Required values, and range to altitude indications on the MFD, the moving map, known as the magenta banana." Never heard it referred to like that. I know the Mad Dogs have autothrottles, and I believe they have VNAV capability for SIDS and STARS. Correct me if that's wrong. No, you're right.
You're right.
My question is, which aircraft have you found to put a higher workload on pilots, the more modern CRJ or the arguably more capable Mad Dog? And he goes, "I look forward to hearing your input, Dana. I'm hoping to join the ranks at Acme in the next few years, so please feel free to take on podcasting full-time and retire, Captain Jeff." Ooh, ouch.
Ouch.
Yeah,
I see where he was really going with
Wait, I could take the same stance, Captain Jeff. Get out of my way.
Get out of my seat.
You got problems, Jeff. The number of emails I'm getting nowadays going, you're not looking well, Nick. You need to go.
You really should just retire.
Yeah, you really should.
Thanks, APG crew, for putting on such a good, mostly accurate show. That's from Phil. Thanks. Yeah, it is mostly accurate.
51%. Mostly.
Yes, at least. Dana, take it away.
Phil, that's really a very good question. Thank you for writing in and bringing that question to me. The fact that the that the CRJ did not have auto throttles. It had a trend vector. Give you a 10-second advanced trend vector, kind of like what we have on our airplane, Jeff. It gives us, where our airspeed is based on what the airplane's calculating, which would our configuration on the left-hand side of our primary flight display, that fast slow indicator. It's very similar in function. I would say that the auto throttles and the complacency on the 88 is that the VNAV works, and that is not true. You can't trust it. You have to stay on top of it all the time. A lot of times the information that it's giving you, and we also have a banana bar on our airplane. You have to stay on top of the aircraft because the FMS, even though we do have the capability of doing VNAV, will not fly it as advertised all the time. One particular that when we started flying was the Koi 3 arrival into LaGuardia. That airplane just wouldn't fly it very well, especially once you come down to the Koi. I guess it's 10,000 feet if I remember correctly. Been a while since I've gone to LaGuardia, but there's a couple last step downs there, 11,000, 10,000. The airplane just didn't do it very well because the initial fix was at or above altitude. We had to change that to an actual hard altitude. So there was a lot of thinking that goes on. The information, the FMS generated information on the RJ was leaps and bounds ahead of the technology that we have on the Mad Dog. So even though the Mad Dog has the capability to fly it using the auto throttles, that really is the only advantage. And I find that the auto throttles can make you a real lazy pilot, and you become complacent, and then you're lulled into this trusting of it, and you can't, not on the Mad Dog. Now the Airbus, I understand, works a whole lot better. So to answer your question, I guess that's a roundabout way. I would have to say that other than having to manage your power on the RJ, which you kind of really have to do on the 88 anyways, the RJ's FMS was far superior. It just didn't fly the arrival, the VNAV arrival procedure for you. So you have to stay engaged, but the calculations that it gave you are more accurate.
Yes. Trust but verify.
Always trust but verify. So I would say the workload, it really depends on the arrival, to be honest with you. Just like on either aircraft. I mean, if you come into Atlanta with these new arrivals, the not these newest ones that they just came out with, but the last version of all these VNAV arrivals, the airplane just couldn't do it. That's why they actually went away. A good portion of the reason why the last round of previous to the ones we have now went away, because this aircraft it's still having problems going to Minneapolis with this with the 88 and 90, still having issues. It just cannot fly the arrivals very well, at least in my experience. Maybe it's pilot error. Maybe it's me. I tend to doubt. You never know, but there's some ways you can trick the system into doing things properly. But still, I really think that the RJ, even though it didn't have auto throttles, is really a good platform.
Yeah, Phil, and Dana knows this because he's flown with me a few times. I basically fly the Mad Dog like the CRJ, the way you're flying the CRJ, Phil, in vertical speed, and usually have the throttles off. So I'm not using the auto throttle system. So I know that I have to pay attention to power control and everything else, and it's just, I find it a lot easier to just use my pilot brain to calculate all the descent gradients and everything else, and the restrictions and the speeds and everything else, and I can do it much more smoothly than the VNAV system can, at least on the Mad Dog. So,
yeah, and that's very true, Jeff. The Acme got away from teaching guys for a long time how to use IES and vertical speed, and and just programming the pilots just use VNAV. Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's not smooth. You start off at 35,000 feet and start off in the descent. The airplane, dives down at 2,500 feet per minute, to 3,000 feet
or more,
more, and then it says clamp, which is computer lockout manual power. So it's telling you, okay, now you get to adjust the power as to where you want it, but I'm going to dive you down first. Whereas, what you're talking about is you start the vertical speed down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 feet per minute, get going down nice and smoothly. So everybody in the airplane doesn't feel like they're floating. And then you do it nice and smoothly using the 3-to-1. I mean, it's a very, very basic thing that, as you said, pilot brain. So we do have the capability to fly it like the 700, 900, or the 200. They're all pretty much the same. And the FMS is not smooth, the autopilot using the FMS calculated information, because the algorithms are just not very good. So,
Yeah, and the MD-90 VNAV system is just the worst. It's you feel like you're on a roller coaster sometimes if you let the system just do it on its own, and until you kind of intervene and go, okay, that's enough. You're fired. I'm taking over. But good question though, and great answer, Dana.
Yeah, well done, both of you.
I hope everybody understands me in my Boston accent with a scratchy voice.
Yeah. Some people are saying that it sounds sexy.
Oh.
Yeah. I just made that up. Let's see.
Hopefully it's not sexy to you.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the way I was feeling. Feeling all warm and fuzzy. Dave writes in, he says, I was listening to your recent podcast when you were talking about the interaction with the passenger, where you went back to the cabin and felt upset and asked your first officer to watch you closely. I did get my private pilot's license, so I understand completely where you're coming from, but my career took me elsewhere. I work in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm a captain on a cruise boat in Milwaukee. I have a 100-ton Coast Guard master's license, and I operate vessels on the Great Lakes daily during the summer. A lot of the things that you talked about as far as resource management, I try to incorporate along with the training I received to get my private pilot license, and I find that to be extremely helpful. It's funny you mentioned about asking your first officer to keep a close eye on you. My son Maxwell is 6 years old, and when my wife became pregnant, she told me on a day that I had to work. So about 2 hours before I went to work, she told me she was pregnant. We'd been trying for quite a while, and that was quite a shock to me. So I went to work, and I specifically asked my first officer, who was a close friend of mine, and still is, in fact, he's my brother-in-law now, to keep a very close eye on me. We hadn't told any of our family members, and I specifically said, look, I really trust you, but don't tell anybody. This is on my mind, and it's going in 500 different directions right now. You need to keep a close eye on me. So if I do anything stupid or seem to be distracted, you need to smack me upside the head. Luckily, he kept a very close eye on me, and we had no problems, but I know exactly what you mean about being totally distracted and have 1,000 different emotions flowing through your head. If you ever come through Milwaukee in the summertime, you can find me on Twitter, and I will get you on board for free if you have a layover or an evening, and you can just ride along, have a beverage or two. We have some good beers, and enjoy the views. Let me know. Ooh, that sounds like a great plan, Dave. We need to put him on our contact list for Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds great. Damn, I don't go to Chicago anymore.
Yeah, well, come fly in somewhere, and then we'll non-rev together.
Nick?
Sorry?
Where do you go anymore? Lagos?
Well, Jeff, Newark.
I have a question. You guys just confused me.
Mm-hmm.
You both said Chicago, but I see Milwaukee.
Oh, that's right. Well, we're confused. That's why. Milwaukee. Why was I thinking Chicago?
Close enough. You just drive up to Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's what
but
I
you
don't
do
know.
go to Milwaukee, so.
Yeah, we do go to Milwaukee.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking you didn't go there, but you do. So.
Oh, no, yeah, we do.
Okay.
We do. I'm sorry.
Someone leading me up the garden path.
We're all confused.
I just wanted to state the obvious there. Poor
Yeah,
Dave.
well, you did. Very good.
Well, I was going to ask, but then I was like, well, maybe that's just as close as they get to Milwaukee. And then I was like, that's not right.
No, I love Milwaukee. Milwaukee is an awesome overnight.
It
In
is.
the summertime.
Yeah. Not this time of year, not so great.
Not so much.
But see, I told you, you got to watch me closely.
Kudos to Dave for realizing that he might have a problem after the great news. I mean, so I'm assuming it was absolutely fantastic news, and that he might be distracted. So I wish everyone else who did his kind of a job or an airline job was as responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, great feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Slap me upside the head.
Love it.
Captain Ryan And by the way, thank you, crew, for slapping me upside the head, especially you, Dana, for saying Chicago instead of Milwaukee. I don't know what I'm thinking. Moving on to Captain Ryan. Huh?
Me neither.
Captain Ryan says, "Good evening, APG. My name is Ryan Kohlberg, currently a captain at Acme Junior Compass, based in LAX on the E-175. Been listening to your podcast since early 2015 while I was in training at Acme Junior. I've greatly enjoyed your podcast and have benefited from listening to Captain Jeff, Rick, Nick, First Officer, soon-to-be Captain Dana, and Dr. Steph, especially a few years ago when I started my airline career. I live in the Midwest, currently northern Wisconsin, originally from Madison, Wisconsin. Commute out west, but hope to be able to be part of a meetup sometime soon. Maybe Osh 18? With the Air Venture 2018, Oshkosh, Wisconsin? Yeah. Well, I don't know. We may not be able to make it up this year because of the other event that we may be going to. But I'm not sure if they conflict or not. But anywho, good chance that there are going to be a lot of APG community there at Oshkosh this year for sure. I know that for a fact. Anyway, glad to be able to contribute to the show via Patreon. It's money well spent. Well, thank you, Captain Ryan. I look forward to all the episodes to come. Thanks again for the amazing podcast. Blue skies and tailwinds, Captain Ryan. Woohoo! Thank you for being part of the Coffee Fund cadre, Captain. We're going to look forward to meeting you sometime.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate your contribution.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hey, we always talk about drones, and usually it's not a positive thing. I'm trying to find my drone. There we go. Well, we actually have a good drone story. This from Liz, linked to a BBC.com news article. And this actually took place in Australia. 2 teenage boys were rescued by a brand new life-saving drone in Australia while lifeguards were still training to use the device. The swimmers, aged 15 through 17, had got into difficulties off the coast of Lennox Head, New South Wales. A member of the public spotted them struggling in heavy surf about 700 meters, 2,300 feet offshore. Lifesavers instantly sent the drone to drop an inflatable rescue pod. The pair made their way safely to shore. John B., the state's deputy premier, praised the rescue as historic. Never before has a drone fitted with a flotation device been used to rescue swimmers like this. Lifeguard supervisor Jai Sheridan, or Yai? J-A-I. How would you pronounce it? Jai, maybe. Oh, okay. Was piloting the device when the alarm was raised. He described the experience as unreal. The Little Ripper UAV, that's what they call the thing, Little Ripper, proved itself today. It's an amazingly efficient piece of life-saving equipment and a delight to fly. That's what he told the Sydney Morning Herald newspaper. And in this article, which you'll find in the show notes, there's a link to some video where it actually shows the moment where the flotation device was released, and you can see the troubled swimmers in the water below, and it drops down, and I'm thinking that's a really good drop there. Would think that you'd have
nearly hit the bloke on the head.
Yeah, it was very accurate.
Well,
and the thing kind of expanded, and they grabbed onto it, and they got to shore safely.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's really good piece of technology and a simple use of it too. But it also helps not endanger the lifeguards at the same time. So it's good to see a positive use of drones, and good to see that it's not only helping those swimmers but also keeping the lifeguards safe at the same time too. So.
Well, I wish David Hasselhoff and Pamela Anderson went after them.
It would make
I'd rather see them rescued.
Less exciting TV drama series.
Yeah, the trouble with those two is they always run in slow motion, so it takes the fate
they're not
rescue someone. You're going to drown before they get to you.
Well, Hasselhoff running slow motion. I don't care about Pamela Anderson. Come on now. I don't need to say anything more.
Screw those swimmers. Just kidding, of course. I guess we need to.
I'm trying to work out what that inflatable device is, because in that still there, it looks like a mad dog with a big long yellow thing sticking out the front. Have you seen? There's an airplane shape at one end, which one kid's got hold of, and then the other bloke's hanging onto the long extension. But it looks a clever piece of kit. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, I thought it was going to like inflate into like a lifeboat or something like that, but it's just it reminds me
big, like pool noodle that you can just like paddle back to shore.
Or like one of those things you see at car dealerships, that has a fan blowing and the thing's going like that.
The wavy man. Yeah, exactly. It'd be hard to grab hold of, though, wouldn't it? If one of those came. Come here.
Unfortunately, we have redesigned the flotation device to grab onto a little bit more effectively. We lost the swimmers.
Yeah.
Thank you for your help in testing the device. I mean, that's a long way out there, 700 meters, and those are big waves too. Again, watching the video, they were probably happy to have that flotation device.
Yeah, and I guess if nothing else, even if they couldn't get themselves back to shore, at least they have that, so that they're not in more distress by having to continue swimming.
Yeah, makes it a lot easier for the people on the jet skis or whatever. They're going to come out and find them to see them as well. Because, a swimmer with just a head sticking up is not as clearly seen as a big day glow thing.
It's bright yellow, yeah.
Well, wait.
They say they use
it was me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you'd be no problem. But it turned bright red pretty quick. They also say they're anti-shark, so I'm just wondering what they do when they see a shark. Do they drop a spear on it or something? I don't know.
Those were slightly different drone devices that they were using to spot the sharks.
500-pound bombs.
They says they invested in drones to help spot sharks and then also rescue swimmers or surfers in trouble.
They drop fish urine.
Oh, here we go. Fish urine.
I'm still unclear.
On the sharks.
I think we should move on. I'm not sure I want to know.
I think that if he says it one more time, that will definitely be the title of today's show. Yeah. Fish urine. Oh, man. Anyway.
I passed my air transport pilot's license, and I remember all the airflows that come into the United Kingdom, like polar, polar maritime, returning polar maritime, continental. I don't remember there being a fish urine.
You were absent that day.
I must have been.
All right.
I come up with the craziest stuff sometimes. Makes you laugh at least.
Yeah.
That's why we love you.
So we occasionally we'll be reading a news article or whatever, and it contains a French word, and we've talked about several times on the show that the French had a big part in the development of manned flight, and the different pieces, parts of an airplane have French names and such. And we have a listener up in Montreal who thought that she'd send some feedback and give us a lesson in French.
Votre avis est incroyable.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to play that later. Here we go.
From a frigid little island called Montreal, a warm hello to Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Captain Dana, to Steph, Miami Hick, Miami Rick, Main Man Micah, Ed Alia. That's Latin for everybody else. My name is Josine, and I am currently in school to be an airplane mechanic. My feedback today is a little bit off the beaten path, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. So the theme today is dual meanings. I was initially inspired to send this in response to some comments that Nick made regarding the terms Mayday and Pan-Pan. But then I got to thinking about aviation terminology in French itself. So I'm going to share this with you instead. Last summer, Jeff learned that the inch, the unit of measurement, was originally based on the length of a man's thumb. So as a French speaker, I already knew that, because in French, the word for inch and the word for thumb are the exact same word. So today I'm going to share words with you that are kind of doing that sort of thing, right? There's two meanings that kind of relate to each other if you kind of know the story. Except all the words I'm going to share with you today are related to aviation. Thought it might be fun to give you guys an opportunity to attempt to guess if you're up for it. So I've structured each of these so that I give the general literal definition of a French word, and then you can pause if you want, and then I will explain how it pertains to aviation. Okay, so the first word is décolle or décollage. That's spelled D, E with an accent, C-O-L-L-E. This is one of those words that doesn't have a perfect translation into English. Dé, the first part of the word, that's un, basically. Colle, that's the French word for glue. And so décolle is a verb, and it refers to something that's gradually losing its stickiness, something that's losing its property of adhesion. In Quebec French, at least, not sure about France, you can use the word metaphorically. So, for example, if somebody was invading your personal space and you wanted them to just get away, you would say, "Hey, décolle, calice." So that would be like French for, "Hey, back off, buddy." If you had a girlfriend who was really clingy and high maintenance, you would describe her as being colleuse, which would be French for glue-like. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of what this word is about. So, décolle, not being sticky anymore. Can you guess what that might mean in an aviation-related context? So if you guys want to take a stab at it, this would be the time to hit the pause button.
Ooh.
Pause button is, that's not fair.
All right,
you know
I'll-
French.
I'm sorry.
But we'll
Not well,
just...
not very well.
Okay, go ahead, Steph.
No, it's okay. I'll let others guess first. I'll withhold. So yeah.
Décollage. Nick, any ideas?
I can't think of anything. I'm just trying to think what's not sticky. Well, you used to unstick when you got airborne from the runway. So, I don't know. Is it the act of getting airborne or rotating or something like that?
I was going to say takeoff.
Well, let's hear from Josie.
Okay, so some of you might know this one. It's a very, very common term. Décollage is the takeoff roll. So, for example, l'avion décolle de la piste. The plane is taking off from the runway. Or rather, it unglues itself.
I thought it was something
The
a
next
girl
word
wore.
is vrille.
I'm sorry, what?
I thought it was something a girl wore when she went to her sort of prom.
Oh, did you... oh, yes, she has décollage on her dress?
Yes, exactly right. So is that...
Or...
Is that the same
I thought it was
word?
like a... don't think so. The... what we used to do like pieces of wood, and then you put like something from out of a magazine on it and glue it on there, and then you coat it with a bunch of layers of shellac. Oh, that's découpage. Never mind.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
Décolletage.
We ready to continue? Here we go.
Spelled V-R-I-L-L-E. A vrille is a tendril, those curly bits that plants use to climb up walls. A vrille can also refer to a gimlet, as in that simple woodworking tool that's a bit shaped like a corkscrew with a T-handle that's used by carpenters to bore holes in wood. So, when it comes to flying, can you guess what a vrille might be? Pause now if you want to guess.
Paused.
This one I don't know.
Really?
Well, I'm going to say
I've
I'm
never
going to say a spin.
Yes, the corkscrew. I bet that's what it is.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because it just resembles the flight path of a spin, perhaps.
Well, let's see if you're right, Captain Nick.
Prop.
All right.
Could be a prop.
Let me take you to a scene in the French countryside. A carpenter in his workshop, his atelier, sitting at his bench, piloting the holes where his pieces will join, with the help of his gimlet, his vrille. Down the path outside his door, the vineyard, where des vrilles, twining tendrils, support a canopy of hanging grapes on a trellis. The dappled sunlight filters through, a soft glow that settles on les vrilles qui brillent, the tendrils of chestnut brown hair on the tanned neck of a beautiful young woman as she picks the grapes. Not noticing, in the distance, where the sky and the horizon meet, the languid drift of a twin-piston airplane, the buzz of the engines barely audible over the bright hum of cicadas. Suddenly, the left engine putters out. Foolishly, the young pilot banks into the dead engine. Low and slow, the nose dips down in a cruel, mocking curtsy right before it enters la vrille, the tendril, the shape of its disastrous trajectory as it spirals towards the earth. So yeah, in French, a spin is a tendril. I hope I got that right. I'm not a pilot.
Sounds very good.
You also have in French the word vrillage. So on a propeller, any given blade on that propeller, if it turns once, that unit as a whole is going to turn in the same amount of time, but the tip of the propeller obviously is going to follow a longer path than the root, so that's a greater distance in the same amount of time. So the tip, of course, is faster. So since it's faster, the angle of attack at the tip needs to be higher than it needs to be at the root. So effectively, you're going to be introducing a twist to that blade. And that phenomenon of twisting the blade, or the degree to which you are twisting the blade, that is known as vrillage in French. You're tendrilizing the blade of the propeller. Okay, next one. The word is lacet. L-A-C-E-T. Lacet. Lacet is the French word for a shoelace or a bootlace. For this one, I'm going to go straight to the answer because in this case, there's really no analogy or metaphor for you guys to work with. There's no way to reasonably guess what this is. So, lacet is the French word for yaw. Adverse yaw in French is lacet inversé, so inverted shoelace. A yaw damper in French is un amortisseur de lacet. The shoelace killer, almost. More like the indefiniter of the shoelace. The next word is décroche. D, E with an accent, C, R, O-C-H-E. So, in English, there's a word crochet, which is a type of knitting that uses a needle with a hook at the end of it. So, that's based on French. Crochet, or crochet, is simply the French word for hook. So, hook as a verb in French, if you hook something on, you accroche it. And if you are unhooking something, you are décroching it. So, décroche is French for unhook. So when it comes to aviation, when would you be unhooking something? Pause.
Oops, cut her off there. Unhooking. Décrocher. Décrocher?
Tie downs?
Tie downs, huh? That's an idea.
I would
generally
guess it's when you start your flight, you push back. I don't know. When you release,
unhook from the tug or something.
Yeah, or the terminal building, you disengage from that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it
What do
could
you
also
think,
be for takeoff too.
Yeah. Although we already got the term for that.
No, I know we got that.
The jetway coming off the aircraft.
Okay.
Well, to be fair, I'm actually thinking more military. There's a hook on the back of most military airplanes, but I think that's probably a bit specialist.
Yeah. Well, let's hear what the answer is.
Now, if you want to guess. All right. There's a song, a pop song in French called Copilote. And it's about this hunky young co-pilot who becomes miserable and alcoholic over the years, eventually committing suicide by intentionally crashing his aircraft. The song doesn't specify if he's alone in the plane when he does this. Anyway, the bridge of the song goes like this. Ses yeux percent le ciel, il fait ses adieux avant décrocher les ailes. Translation: his eyes pierce the sky, he says his goodbyes before he unhooks the wings.
I see somebody waving their hand. Do you have an idea now, Nick?
No, I was waving goodbye to the sky.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I was acting out the song.
Oh, okay. Well, hang on. Let's continue with it, Josie.
Of the plane. Have you guessed it? The wings of a plane get unhooked when that smooth laminar flow of air over the upper surface gets disrupted. Most often when the angle of attack is too high for a given speed.
Stall.
So yes, in French,
I wouldn't have got that one.
Stall a plane, you unhook it.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay, one more.
Okay.
Guignol. G-U-I-G-N-O-L. Guignol. Guignol is the French word for a hand puppet. If you know what Punch and Judy is, the puppet show with the guy with a stick beating his wife, there was a French equivalent to that in Lyon in the 1700s, and the main character in that show was Guignol. Guignol had a witty, satirical sense of humor. So by association, the word guignol can also refer to an individual who isn't afraid to speak the truth to powerful people in a humorous way. Somebody who uses irreverent humor. So yeah, hand puppets. Where would you see hand puppets in the context of aviation? Once again, this is not guessable, mechanically speaking. So not hydraulics, not fly-by-wire. The inputs of your control column and your rudder pedals are going to deflect your control surfaces through a system of various rods and cables, right? So one component of these assemblies is the bell crank. So bell crank in French is guignol. Guignol can actually also refer to other related assemblies, for example, the aileron horn, but keep it simple and just say that it's a bell crank. A guignol is a bell crank. So what's a bell crank? So if you turn your yoke, let's say, that's going to result in a rod being pushed in a direction towards the tip of your wing. That rod is going to be attached to one end of a bell crank. So a bell crank, what does that look like? Imagine a boomerang type of a shape, and you're going to have at either tip of that boomerang rods, an input and an output. And the unit as a whole, it's going to pivot around the center, the corner of that V of the boomerang. So if you have a rod pushing in one direction, it's going to result in translation of motion, usually by 90 degrees. So if you have a rod going towards your tip, and that's going to get rotated 90, that's going to go towards your trailing edge, and then your output rod is what's actually going to be deflecting your aileron. So the bell crank is essentially what facilitates that. Sometimes mechanics reinstall them backwards, and that results in reversed aileron authority. So you turn your yoke to the right, the plane banks to the left. Which is why it's not only important to do your pre-flight checks, but also to understand what you're checking for. There is a case here in Canada where a plane crashed right after takeoff because of this problem. And when they interviewed the pilots, who had both survived, obviously, each of them confirmed that they had gone through the appropriate checks of the checklist. But even though one of those pilots was a flight instructor, neither of them had an intuitive grasp of exactly what an aileron is doing, the direction an aileron needs to move. They just looked, they saw that it was deflecting, and then checked it off. So yeah, that's it. I know you guys don't come to Montreal very often, but the next time that you're in Toronto or wherever, I'd be totally down to organizing or attending a meetup. I'll be in touch on Slack. Bye.
Bye. Wow, that was great.
Nice one. Excellent.
And we're getting in the airplane and heading up there this weekend. No, I'm just kidding.
I wish. That'd be fun.
Now, my father always taught me that when you put your stick over to the right, say, the aileron on that side comes up to meet the stick.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's the way I've always remembered it. Of course, when you pull back, the elevator comes up to meet the stick. When you push forward, the elevator goes away because you push the stick away. So that's always the way I remember that.
Yep. And that should have been something that those pilots knew.
Yeah, exactly.
That should have been part of their education, right?
Yeah. I think calling them pilots might be a little exaggeration.
Wow, that was fun.
It was.
I think everybody, at least I'm watching the chat room comments, everybody seemed to really enjoy that. I know that the crew did here. That was a lot of fun and educational. So thank you, Josine. And she's in the chat room as well. So that's very fortuitous.
I could always do with brushing up on my French because, of course, when I go over France, it's always polite to say hello to the controllers in their language. And I try and do the same when we go through Montreal's airspace. But, yeah, I'm not very good at it.
And now you're going to say stall, spin, bell crank.
I have 6 words now, 5 words.
And they're going, what is this guy saying?
I need to get Josine to translate flick, spin, crash, burn, die for me.
I'm sure she'll be able to do it.
Excellent.
All right. That's excellent. Well, let's do another feedback question, and then after that we'll go to the Plane Tales. This one is from Nick, not our Nick here, but Nick Hewitt. He said, "Hi guys, still listening to the show, still suffering from the syndrome, and still loving every second.
Woohoo.
I listened to Dublin ATC in my free time a fair bit. When doing so recently, the airport was under de-icing conditions due to heavy snow, so all approaching planes were put into holds, and the time between takeoffs and landings was greatly increased. All approaching flights were given approach times, and it seemed as most of these times appeared to be accurate. However, I noticed that a large amount of flights opted to divert to Shannon, Liverpool, or Birmingham instead, all of which would have had a flight time similar to, if not the same, as their allocated hold time. I was wondering why these decisions to divert were made in this case. What do you guys take into account when making such decisions? Do you consume more fuel in a hold than during cruise, possibly? Thanks as always for the podcast and hard work put into it. I hope to catch one or some of you guys here in rainy South Wales sometime in the future. Nick." So, who wants to take a stab at this one?
Oh, yeah, sure. This is fairly easy. So you're in a hold and you're given an approach time and you're looking at your gas. Now, of course, you could burn down and get rid of the gas that you would use to go to Shannon, Liverpool, or Birmingham. But if you're giving away that fuel, your only option is to land at the airfield you're over, i.e. Dublin. Now, if they're suffering from a lot of snow and they're trying to keep the runways clear and clear the runways, there is always the possibility that the airfield might not actually be available. Once you've given away that diversion fuel, you can't go anywhere. You've got to land there. And that's not a safe thing to do, is to put yourself in that position. So the guys that diverted would have had a bit of holding fuel to hang around, but because they couldn't be absolutely assured that they could land at Dublin when the fuel level reached that diversion point, they would have gone off to their safe diversion where the conditions would be good. Now, we're allowed in my company to burn down and use that diversion fuel under certain circumstances. The weather has to be good, and there have to be 2 independent available runways, each with their own approach aid. And if those conditions are filled, then the captain doesn't have to, but he is allowed to burn that diversion fuel and commit himself to landing at his destination airfield as opposed to going to his diversion airfield. But obviously the condition at Dublin, I don't even know if Dublin has 2 runways, I'm not certain. But the conditions obviously there weren't good enough for those pilots to do that, though. So hence they diverted. Have I got that right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about giving yourself the most options possible. You don't want to basically back yourself into a corner where you only have one option that's not a good option. So.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. I have nothing to add to that. That was perfect. Both of you. All about options.
Good job, Steph. Give me 5.
Where are you?
Oh, you just disappeared.
It's like the Brady Bunch we're playing on video.
No, I don't know which. Oh wait, are you on this side? Now
That's
you're
the
on
story.
This side. There we go.
I think it depends. I think it's different for everyone.
I think it's not the same. No, you did all the hard work on that one. I just summed up in one sentence. So.
Well,
you summed up in one sentence what I took. There's a lesson.
We could go from a 3-hour show to a 1-hour show if we did that every question. All right. As I mentioned before, this is a good time, I think, for us to hear this week's installment of Plain Tales. Here we go.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales, Land-O-Matic. I'm gonna make this thing fly, do you hear me? Then I'm gonna set it afire and never have another thing to do with aeroplanes. So spoke one of the greatest aircraft builders in the history of aviation. His ubiquitous aircraft were eventually to be found in almost every corner of the world, and there is hardly a pilot alive who hasn't at some time flown in, behind, alongside, or more likely trained in one of his popular light aircraft. The man himself, christened Clyde Vernon, died in the same year I was born, 1954, aged 74. He started life some 24 years before the Wright brothers were to get their improbable Wright Flyer airborne 4 miles south of Kitty Hawk in North Carolina. His family hailed from France and Germany, and at the age of 2 they moved to the rural area of Kansas, where Clyde grew up in an age of mechanical wonders. A self-taught mechanic, he used his skills to improve the machinery on the farm where he lived. This led him to become a successful car dealer in Oklahoma, and it was here that he first heard about Louis Blériot's crossing of the English Channel in a monoplane in 1909, and he was convinced that he could build something similar. The monoplane seemed so much simpler and more elegant than the biplanes that proliferated at the time. When he eventually saw a flying circus at Oklahoma City, he was sold. Selling his dealership, he set about building his first aeroplane. The man, of course, was Clyde Vernon Cessna, and his impetuous decision would eventually grow into the manufacturing marvel that was going to become the Henry Ford of the air. Convinced he could make as much as $10,000 from flying exhibitions, he moved to New York and spent some time learning about construction at the factory there. Happy he could build a flying machine, he then spent the enormous sum of $7,500 on a kit that he would assemble, adding his own engine, a modified Elbridge 4-cylinder 2-stroke 40-horsepower water-cooled motorboat engine. He took his finished aircraft to some salt plains about 35 miles from his home, and with his brother Roy set about becoming an aviator. His first effort ended with an ignominious ground loop that damaged the machine, and Clyde needed to find another $100 to fix it. Once it was suitably patched up, the Cessna brothers returned and tried again. Again they were unsuccessful. For 10 days they lived in a tent, eating little more than flapjacks, working on their aircraft every time a failed effort ended in a crack-up. In one attempt, Clyde hurt himself so badly he ended up on a pallet for several days. It was after 12 failed attempts that Cessna made his famous quote, but on the 13th time, as salty dust and sand burned his brother's face, he signaled him to let go, and Clyde accelerated the aircraft that he called Silver Wings across the flats. Fighting to keep the machine straight in gusty wind conditions, he slowly left the ground beneath him and rose to 50 feet. This actually presented a problem, as Clyde hadn't learned how to turn yet, and with the engine spluttering, he needed to land. A lesson on how turning increases the stalling speed of an aircraft was about to be impressed on him, as he worked the rudder to aim his machine into a clear area. Inevitably, Silver Wings hit the ground, bounced, and came to rest in some trees. Despite his crash, the crowds that had scoffed at his early failures changed their tone and began calling him a daring hero and nicknamed him the Birdman of Enid. Forgetting his earlier promise to burn his aircraft, he continued to learn until he made a successful 5-mile flight, landing at the same place he took off from. In December 1912, Cessna made a solemn decision. He sent a message to his mother in Rago, Kansas. "We'll make a flying trip home Saturday," he wrote. He shipped his plane by rail, assembled it at the station, and flew home. Circling over the family farm, he landed near the front yard and climbed down from the cockpit, whilst his mother watched. Cessna rushed to give her a kiss on the cheek. "Beats old Dobbin, doesn't it, Mother?" he asked. Buoyed by his success, he cut his ties with the automobile industry entirely and took up flying full-time, often appearing at holiday events and county fairs. He built a factory and opened a flight school, but when the First World War started, the flying market ground to a halt. In the years after the war, Cessna joined Walter Beach and Lloyd Stearman to found the Travel Air Manufacturing Company in Wichita, Kansas. After a couple of years, Clyde split from his partners over design disputes, that old argument of monoplane versus biplane, and set up his own company. In 1927, the Cessna Aircraft Corporation was formed, and there began a line of successful designs, starting with the Cessna Model A, a high-wing, 4-seat, single-engined monoplane tourer. The CW6 was a 6-seater, and the DC-6 a 4-seater version, which was primarily sold to the Army Air Corps. Despite the success of these machines, the Great Depression led to a catastrophic drop in sales, and the company filed for bankruptcy, closing in 1931. However, as the economy recovered, so did the Cessna Company. Clyde reopened his Wichita plant in 1936, but he soon passed it on to his nephews, returning to a life of farming, although he often came back in a ceremonial capacity. The company went from strength to strength, but all the aircraft followed the same basic design of a single-engine, fixed undercarriage, high-wing monoplane. The Airmaster C series was a great success, as was the twin-engine trainer, the T-50, which sold to the US Army and the Canadian Air Force. However, Cessna was yet to build that ubiquitous light aircraft, which was to become its enduring legacy. The heritage can be seen in the all-metal Cessna 140, named by the US Flight Instructors Association as the outstanding plane of the year in 1948. But it wasn't until 1955 that the Cessna 172 made an appearance. The first production model was delivered in 1956, and it remains in production to this very day. It started life as a nose-wheel version of the tail dragger 170, and it became an overnight success. In its first year of production, over 1,400 were built. An advertisement in the Time magazine claimed,
"New Cessna 172 makes flying like driving. It's true, you can learn to fly the amazing new Cessna 172 into the sky, back down to the ground, thanks to Cessna's patented Land-O-Matic gear. The exciting Cessna 172 makes the convenience, speed, flexibility of flying practical for you because you can fly it yourself. Save on travel costs. Takes you where you want to go, when you want to go. Only $8,750, the complete air fleet for every business need."
Over the years, a number of small modifications were applied, a swept-back fin and a lowered rear deck, allowing the incorporation of OmniVision, which in reality was a rear window. There were a variety of choices for engine power, an optional constant-speed propeller, higher tank capacity, wheel fairings, I'm sorry America, I refuse to call them wheel pants, and a mod that allowed the use of automobile gasoline. The original version used a lever, known as the Johnson bar, to lower the flaps, but by 1964 this had changed to electric actuation. Of course, there were many more minor changes, but the basic design of the 172 remained. The military T-41 Mescalero version was purchased by 25 countries, and over 1,000 were delivered to the US military alone. It's often debated as to why the 172 and its smaller cousin, the two-seat 150, have become the staple of flight training schools across the world. It's certainly sturdy and has a forgiving nature. Its high wing means that students get a good view of the ground, making it easier to land, something that Cessna's marketing department called Land-O-Matic. It's reliable and convenient, and has been called the Honda Civic of aircraft. Big enough to be stable and small enough to be economical. Every mechanic knows how to fix it, and spares are always available. It's relatively comfortable, cheap, and easy to maintain. It may not be fast. Generally its maximum speed is around 140 miles an hour, but it could go from Berlin to Belfast or New York to Madison, Wisconsin, on one tank of gas. More pilots have earned their wings flying the 172 than on any other aircraft, said Doug May, the Vice President of Piston Aircraft at Cessna. The 172 has also performed some amazing feats of flight. In 1958, Robert Tim and John Cook took off from McCarran Airfield in Las Vegas in a used 172 named Hacienda as part of a fundraising stunt for a cancer charity. They didn't land again for 64 days, 22 hours, 19 minutes and 5 seconds. During that period of over 9 weeks, food and water were hauled up by bucket after formatting on a chase car on a long straight stretch of highway and dropping a rope. To help them pull the bucket aboard, the right door was replaced by an accordion-style door that could be easily opened in flight. In a similar manner, fuel was pumped through a hose passed up to the aircraft from a fuel truck, something they did 128 times. Engine oil was dribbled into the engine through a pipe that passed through the firewall. If you're wondering what happened to the results of their bathroom breaks, well, the desert is a big place. Early in the record-breaking flight, the electric generator failed, so a Champion wind-driven generator was passed up and bodge-taped onto a wing strut, where the little propeller was free to turn in the slipstream. What little power it produced was transferred through a wire plugged into the aircraft's cigarette lighter socket. From now on, the only cockpit lighting would be a little string of fairy lights. There was only one seat in the 172, since the rest of the cabin was used by the resting pilot, who slept on a pad. Eventually, with the engine clocking up 1,558 hours of continuous operation, its output began to deteriorate to the point where they could hardly climb away from their support vehicles, and they landed. After the flight, Cook said, "Next time I feel in the mood to fly Endurance, I'm going to lock myself in our garbage can with the vacuum cleaner running. That's until my psychiatrist opens up for business in the morning." The amazing little Hacienda 172 can still be seen at McCarran International Airport, hanging in the passenger terminal. The record set by Tim and Cook still stands to this day. The 172 also hit the headlines in 1968, when the German student Matthias Rust flew one from Helsinki to Moscow, right through the supposedly impenetrable air defense system that surrounded the city, and although he was detected by missile systems, permission to launch wasn't given in time. Fighters were scrambled, but they intercepted the wrong aircraft. Rust flew over the city for some time and eventually landed on a bridge right next to Red Square. Remarkably, the trolley car wires that were usually over the bridge had only been removed that day for maintenance. After taxiing past St. Basil's Cathedral, he stopped about 100 meters from Red Square, where he was greeted by curious passers-by and was asked for his autograph. It took 2 hours before he was finally arrested. For a while after the incident, Red Square was jokingly referred to by Muscovites as Sheremetyevo 3, Sheremetyevo 1 and 2 being the two terminals at Moscow's main international airport. Rust was jailed for 4 years, but officially pardoned after 14 months. The incident actually helped Mikhail Gorbachev, the premier, to implement many reforms by allowing him to dismiss numerous military officials opposed to his policies for incompetence. Sadly, some famous people have met their end in a 172. In 1964, Ken Hubbs, a baseball player for the Chicago Cubs, flew his 172 into poor weather and crashed. The boxer Rocky Marciano was returning home for a birthday party in 1969 when he crashed into a tree, also in poor weather. However, overall, the 172 has a very good safety record and is safer than all comparative aircraft such as the Piper Cherokee, the AA-5 Traveller, and the Aerospatiale Tobago. In particular, it is about half as likely to be involved in IMC-related accidents than other light singles. In 1985, Cessna stopped building light aircraft in the US for a while because of excessive product liability lawsuits, but production continued at the Reims factory in France. More recently, production was started in China, and the 172S is still being made at Wichita. There may even be a place for this long-lived aircraft well into the future, as Cessna has announced that it is developing an electric version in conjunction with the company Bi Energy. I suspect that once we've finished our basic lessons in flying, there may be many pilots who would want to move on to something more sleek and fast, but when all is said and done, I suspect that most of us would look back on our days mastering flight with a Cessna trainer with great nostalgia. I know that I do when I think back to that special day in 1973 when I first soloed in a Cessna 150. Lots of pilots look down on the humble Cessna 172, but by some distance it is the most produced aircraft in history, there having been more than 44,000 built, and the aircraft has been in constant production for over 60 years. Add the Cessna 172 and 150 trainers together, and we get over 75,500 aircraft, a figure that beats the production of the next two in the list, the wartime Aleutian IL-2 and the Messerschmitt Bf-109 combined. Not bad for an aircraft that dares call its autopilot Navomatic, its windows Omnivision, its instruments Quick Scan, its beacon Omni Flash, and its landing gear Landomatic.
Nice. I know we're going to have a good discussion about Cessnas right now.
I love
well
the
done.
Cessna 172.
Yeah. I mean, is it the same sort of rivalry between Airbus, Boeing, between Cessnas and Pipers? I mean, they were the other one of the other main trainer aircraft.
It becomes more of a high wing, low wing debate at that point, as opposed to manufacturer, I think. But
well, and I'll be honest with you, I was never a fan, or never have been a fan of the Cessna product. I'm a Piper guy through and through. I'm a low wing guy, and when I was instructing and I was learning how to fly, flew the Piper because I found that aircraft was far more stable, especially in an instrument environment, than the Cessna 172, which tends to be a little bit more squirrely.
What'd you solo in, Dana?
I soloed in a Piper Warrior.
Okay, very cool.
It's kind of in our debate back and forth. It really depends. As an airline pilot, what you're flying, what you're familiar with, and what you're berthed in per se. So, the argument, Airbus versus Boeing, Cessna versus
Ford,
Piper,
Chevy.
Ford, Chevy, exactly. It goes all the way down. And Dr. Seth said it right. I mean, it's high wing versus low wing. I'm a low wing guy because I find that the platform is just a little more stable.
Steph, you soloed in
172.
There you go.
Cessna 172. And I think I have my first over 100 hours for an Cessna 172. So, although at this point,
it's all Cirrus, right?
Exactly. I've moved away from either of those. No, I could honestly go back and forth between the two, and it doesn't make a huge difference to me which one I'm flying. So,
Nick, have you flown a Cessna?
It was my first powered aircraft, so I got a scholarship to learn to fly on powered aircraft, and the school I went to flew Cessna. So I carried on working at that school for a little bit after as well, and that's one of the stories I remember telling when I nearly killed myself taxiing them and putting them away in a hangar when I left an aircraft with the magnetos still live, and then turned the prop over by hand, which gave me a bit of a shock when the engine started. I mean, I always thought the Pipers were just a little more awkward. I mean, that big wing in the way, and quite honestly, the Cessna should be more stable than a Piper. I mean, we all know that a high wing is a very naturally stable aircraft. And certainly
I think it's a different type of it's more the feel of stability that I think Dana is talking about. I get exactly what he's saying, having spent probably an equal amount of time. The Piper just it's a, and I might be wrong here, but I believe it's a little bit heavier, so I think that's where more of the stability feel comes. If you're comparing like a Cessna 172 to a Piper Cherokee.
So it's a different wing design, and also the Piper versus the Cessna, the tail design is is a bit different too, and the rudder is a little more loose. Is probably the best word I have on the Cessna 172. I think it's not loose like it's going to fall off, but it just has a looser feel to it, whereas the Piper is a tighter feel.
Interesting.
So I've flown the Cessna 150, 152, Cessna 172. I soloed in the military version of the Cessna 172, the T-41 Mescalero. And also, I have a lot of time in an airplane that most people don't think about as being a Cessna. The T-37B was made by Cessna.
Yeah, of course, they branched out and build jets and all sorts now. By the way, while we've got a moment, I must thank Sean McHale, who first asked me to perhaps look at the Cessnas as a plain tail, and I must admit, I wouldn't really have thought about it, and I thought this isn't going to be very exciting, but I think there's a huge amount of nostalgia attached to this aircraft, and when I realized just how many of the damn things they built, I'm going, that's incredible. I mean, it's leaps and bounds above other manufacturers. I think obviously Piper pilots are something of a niche element.
Yes.
In comparison.
Wonderful. Well, I think that the folks listening to the show, especially general aviation pilots, will be able to get a lot from that plane tail. And thank you again for doing it, Captain Nick. I know
love it.
You take a lot of time to do it, and we can tell.
Thanks.
John Agarano, something like that, writes, "Hello, I just wanted to say I love your podcast." Well, thanks, John. We love you. Thought I would say that and add a funny. Just to a trip to Charlotte and was at the Overlook for about an hour tonight before I departed. I subsequently watched 4 American Airlines aircraft take off sequentially that all forgot to turn on their strobes on departure. Crazy stuff to see, especially all in a row. Thanks for your awesome content. Keep it coming. So, what kind of airplanes were those? That maybe they were airplanes that don't have strobes, or I don't know.
So we're talking really about anti-collision lighting system. I'm trying to, I don't know for certain, but so it's either a beacon, strobe system, or both. And technically, if you have both, you should be using both, especially once you're off the ground. Sometimes on the ground, strobes can be distracting, especially to other aircraft if you're in a busy environment. And there is provisions within the FAR and AIM that if you're in adverse weather conditions or if it would be unwise to use them, you can turn them off. But once you're in the air, day or night, they are supposed to be used. So I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, like with our aircraft, Jeff, strobes that do not turn on the ground. It's a weight on wheels or in-flight shift sensor. So very possible that the aircraft, I don't know which aircraft he's in reference to.
That's the key, I think, here. What kind of airplane and what kind of design with strobes, and if they even have strobes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall whether the 727 that we flew even had. I don't think they had strobes on the 727 at Acme.
I think every aircraft now, every commercial aircraft now has strobes on it. So I would imagine it's a weight on wheels.
So that's a moot point then, I guess.
Yeah.
Just a question then, guys. In Acme, do you rely on the weight on wheels, or do you physically turn the strobes on before that?
It's a strict function of the weight on wheels.
Yes.
Okay. It's just that we used to do that, but then the Civil Aviation Authority said because of the possibility of an aircraft hitting another one that's on the threshold waiting to take off, a la LAX, you'll remember that incident. They want the strobes turning on as soon as you enter the runway environment. So we now manually turn them on. I mean, the weight and wheels is belt and braces, just in case you forget. They will automatically come on, but we manually turn them on as soon as we enter the runway.
The on the Mad Dog, the switches, we can manually turn them off in flight. If, for example, if we're flying through IMC conditions and you're getting that flash and that's bothering you. But on the ground, the switch is always, presumably, as long as the first officer has done his job properly, should always be in the both position, which is the strobes in the position lights. So as long as they're both in the switch is in the both position, as soon as we go airborne, the strobes will come on. But before that, unless they were to disconnect the sensor from the weight on wheels, we would have no manual control over the strobes on the ground.
Oh, okay.
And at Charlotte, watching for American Airlines aircraft take off, it's a good chance that they were either the Airbus A319, 320, 321, or if it was the regionals, CRJ 200, 700, 900, because that's the vast majority of aircraft landing and departing, especially if you're looking at the overlook. So
that's interesting, because to prevent them coming on, at least on the weight on wheels, if you forget to turn them on manually at the end of the runway, you actually physically have to select them off, which seems a little unlikely, but there you go.
Yeah. Well, that was a good question. Thank you, John, for it. Now, this next piece of feedback, again, from Liz, and it's actually, I'd have to say, pretty crappy.
I would agree.
Yeah, I should have done this as soon as I said crappy. All right. Indian officials suspect an icy ball which fell on a village in the northern state of Haryana is a frozen human waste leaked from an airplane overhead. The 10 to 12 kilogram, wow, that's heavy, 22 to 26 pounds, chunk of ice fell on a village in India, I cannot pronounce, with a big thud, startling residents on Saturday. Senior Gurgaon official Vivek Kalia told the BBC some villagers thought it was an extraterrestrial object. Plane toilets store human waste in special tanks. These are normally disposed of once the airplane has landed, but international aviation authorities acknowledge that lavatory leaks can occur in the air. Mr. Kalia told the BBC that a sample of the projectile had been sent for chemical analysis, but we suspect strongly that it is frozen airline excrement. It gets better. Wait, just stay with me here. It was a very heavy ice ball of ice which dropped from the skies early on Saturday morning. There was a big thud, and people of the village came running out of their homes to find out what happened, he said. Some villagers thought it was an extraterrestrial object. Others thought it was some celestial rock, and I've heard that they took some samples home. Yeah, so the Times of India newspaper reported that people sneaked a few pieces into their clothes and stored them in refrigerators at home. Ooh, what stinks in here?
Right next to your food for dinner.
Oh, nice. In December of 2016, a court in India ruled that airlines in India would be fined if their planes release human waste from toilets in the air. Now, that makes it sound like we have the ability to go, I'm going to release some human waste.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we can't. There's no way we can do that. It's got to be some kind of a leak, an accidental situation where these things kind of form and then they just get so heavy in the airstream they just drop. Let's see. In January 2016, a woman in central Madhya Pradesh state suffered a severe shoulder injury when she was hit by a football-sized chunk of ice, which fell from the air and crashed into the roof of her house. Anyway, it goes on to talk about incidents where people have been hit or human waste ice balls have crashed through roofs and caused damage and that sort of thing. But anyway, what do you think about that?
I think a lot of crap is falling out of the sky in India.
I think it
sounds
stinks.
like it. It really stinks. Thank you. Yeah, it does. Okay.
Well, it's interesting. Even over the UK, the CAA say that 25 falls of blue ice, and of course, on aircraft where they colour the flashing liquid blue, that's what colour it turns, are reported every year from the 2.5 million. So 25 lumps of blue ice, that's an awful lot of leakage.
That is. That's way too many.
Yeah. Now, I can understand it being quite common if the grey water from the sinks, if that falls off, because that is drained out of the aircraft directly into the airstream through a heated pipe, and if the base of the aircraft, and if that pipe heat-up fails, then that can form a big lump of ice, but that's not human waste. That's just, water from the sinks. No, to get, I'm trying to work out how you get the stuff from the tanks to leak out, and only through the pipe that the honey cart would connect to when the tanks are serviced. But then you'd not only have to have the door there missing, you'd have to have the valve there, and you'd have to actually activate the system so that it started flowing. I don't know, but obviously some airplanes might be susceptible to it.
Well, we didn't have that problem this morning coming out of Baltimore at all.
You didn't?
No, because they didn't even have any blue juice to service the airplane with this morning.
Oh, right.
Deactivate the lavatory because there was none.
Can't you use plain water?
I'm not sure if they're allowed to do that or not. Wow, I've never heard of that. Why did they not have blue juice?
I don't know. It station manager.
Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore.
Yeah, that's all you have to say.
Well, you could always try strawberry or something else instead, instead of
Green.
the blueberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for the crappy feedback, Liz. We can always count on you for that.
Yep.
Vaughn writes, "Hi, Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, and Captain Dana. I would just like to offer my thanks to all the APG crew for producing an informative and occasionally humorous podcast." What?
Very occasionally.
He put that in parentheses. Occasionally with an exclamation point.
Fisher.
Yeah.
I think it's always humorous. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I'm very serious.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Well, then I'm not going to take it.
I can be seriously funny.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, we've always thought you were seriously funny.
Looking. Let's finish the sentence. Looking.
Okay.
Seriously funny. Looking.
As an aging av geek, but not a member of the professional aviation community, I find the shows absorbing and informative and learn about a new facet of flying in every show. I actually do too. I met Captain Nick very briefly at the RAF Cosford lecture last Thursday, and his talk on his RAF experiences was fascinating, especially the bear hunting. Oh, I didn't know you talked about going out there and hunting for bears.
Yeah, I did. I have a big gun.
Ah, that's what we've heard.
Yeah.
Gatling gun.
That's what she said.
My question for the APG crew is in relation to the allocation of duties on the flight deck on a commercial airliner. Who makes the decision on who is going to fly the airplane on a particular sector? And as he goes on, is this decided by the captain on the day, or is the division of duties determined by another department in the airline so that the skills of first officers are developed on structured basis? A simple question, but one that I've often wondered about. Once again, many thanks to producing such a great show every week. Keep up the good work. Keep the blue side up. And again, that's Vaughn Turney in Ascot, UK. I think Dana would be the perfect person to answer this one.
I was going to take a guess. It's rock, paper, scissors, right?
No, short of straw.
Short of straw. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the captain, I guess.
Okay.
Yep.
Dana, have you ever had an experience where the allocation of duties somehow ends up skewed against you, not in your favor?
Well, kind of funny you should ask that.
Yeah.
My last trip last week was such a joy. Yeah, you know all about it, actually. That's why you're even asking. Last week, I had the distinct pleasure of getting rerouted, as I mentioned earlier in the show. But fortunately for me, I had 4 captains. And all 4 captains, all right, let me step back. The last captain I flew with was the first captain that was actually kind enough to take into consideration whether I should fly or not, because the other 3, immediately as soon as got on the aircraft, were going to fly the aircraft. Well, the previous 3, the first guy I flew with, we did a round trip to San Antonio. Of course, at Acme, we tend to have the captain fly the first leg when you're flying as a new pair, another captain, first officer. So generally, he tends to take, or she tends to take the first leg. So that's what happened to San Antonio. And I flew back, then got rerouted, ended up with a new captain who then proceeded to fly that leg, then got rerouted. No, I'm sorry. He didn't. He ended up having to stay in Jackson for 34 hours for crew rest issues. So I picked up a new captain in Jackson to then insist as soon as he got on the aircraft that he's flying the leg back to Atlanta. And when he got on, when I told him, I haven't flown the airplanes, it's like the 4th leg I'm flying, and I've only flown once. I don't care. Basically, was his attitude. And his response was, well, if you want to fly, and it was very curt about it. So I knew if I said, yeah, I really want to fly, then he would have been kind of in a bad mood about it. So I just said, you know what, I'll work the radios and the landing gear handle, whatever. Then have another captain when I get to the one that got me sick, have another captain. So is that 3? That's 3 at that point. Have another captain they end up picking up to go to Panama City Beach. We get down to Panama City Beach, and he's the guy that's sick. I flew one leg with him. And by the way, he's the one that flew to Panama City Beach. He didn't let me fly either. Didn't even ask me at all. Just assumed that he's flying it. We ended up getting to Panama City Beach. The flight cancels to go back to Atlanta. We end up on an overnight Panama City Beach. So I end up deadheading the next day back to Atlanta. And then finally, the last captain I flew with, we did a round trip to, oh my God, where do we go? Baltimore. Yes, Baltimore. He actually at the gatehouse asked me, which leg will you fly? And I looked straight at him. I said, well, geez, thanks for caring. Because you're the first guy that really asked me which leg I'd like to fly. Not that it really usually matters, because I really don't normally care. But when you sit there for 3 days and all you do is talk on the radio, move the gear handle, and get sick from the captain and picked up a white slip, it gets a little frustrating. So fortunately, the last guy asked me, which one would you like to fly? I said, well, actually, I haven't flown at all this week. He says, well, you can have both if you want. I said, no, really, I don't want both. But if you don't mind, I'd like to take the Lake to Baltimore. And he did. There's no problem. So, but yeah, that's it's time to upgrade to captain, guys. Just saying.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just time to go to captain. That just really
these are the
chapped
things
my
you
butt.
know that you need to take with you going forward, right? That you remember.
Oh yeah, I will always be courteous like that. I mean, it's pretty much SOP. And a buddy of mine that's in safety here at Acme, and I were talking about this. Actually, believe it or not, statistically, when most accidents occur, is the first flight, or most problems occur, is the first flight when a crew is together for the first time. So it makes more sense that as a captain, you let the first officer take the first leg, because you can kind of watch things better. And there's been an industry study on this, and that actually is true. And it's better for the captain to kind of sit back and watch the whole operation on the first leg. But at Acme, it's just standard practice. And I don't know why.
Or it's really tradition, really.
It's really tradition that the captain kind of sets the tone, flies the first leg. Okay, when I become captain, mark my words, I will talk to the first officer. Now, if the first officer has 150 hours, I might not be so inclined. But if the first officer's been on the airplane for a year or two and is very comfortable with the aircraft, I don't care which leg we fly. Just fly. If you want to fly, fly. Which one? I'll ask. Which one do you want to fly? What do you want to fly?
Yeah. So at Acme, anyway, we can say that it's the captain's discretion and captain's choice and decision on how it's allocated. But traditionally, as Dana just mentioned, the captain normally takes the first leg, and I think that I would guess that most first officers probably prefer that as well, because they'll get a chance to see how the captain flies the airplane, how he operates the automation and that kind of thing, to just kind of get an idea of of the style of the captain, I guess. But what I usually do, if I were one of these captains that was flying with Dana in the midst of this reroute, the first thing I would have asked him is that, okay, where are you in the rotation as far as legs? And then you would have said, well, I haven't flown since 2 days ago. And they said, okay, well then it's your leg, and let if you want. So I'm surprised that only one of those guys did that, and a little perplexed about that. But
you have to wonder what's going on with their bad week as well. Probably lots of the same issues and potentially, and that just makes people unhappy and just let's just get this done, and here's how we're going to do it. So
what was surprising is everybody. I'm sorry. I just want to say this in response to Jeff in that I was very surprised that it wasn't junior guys. It was all very senior.
That even blows me away more.
Top 100 guys.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I'm sorry, Nick. I digress. Go ahead.
Not at all. I was just laughing a bit because on the best of months we would get perhaps 4 or 5 landings in a month. Now, you missed out on a few landings in 4 days, but how many did you get for the rest of the month?
I don't know. I probably do at least 4 or 5 per trip.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
See, so
Right.
in my book, that would be big deal. But when you've actually only got the potential to do 4 or 5 in an entire month, then it actually becomes quite important who gets the landings. I mean, it becomes really important. And generally speaking, it's still the captain. But of course, as guys get so few landings and they come up to the point where they could run out of recency, we get a marker against their name when we pick up the crew list, PL, which means this pilot needs a landing. And it would be a foolish captain who decided to rob him of that chance and let him run out of recency. But and also, of course, we get 3 guys on an aircraft, so someone's always going to miss out on a landing when you've got a heavy crew. So that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's a different world in the long haul. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I would imagine that perhaps this actually can vary across different companies too, just based on what their operating procedures are. So
I would guess.
Well, probably, and just there's a rebuttal on what Nick said is, there's one reason why I'm selling this aircraft is because I really enjoy flying, and when you take the opportunity on the trip away from me to fly and let me sit there, I kind of take exception to that because we're there to fly. Even though in a month, and the way it's an international pilot, you think you want currency. It has nothing to do with currency. It's the fact that I like to fly the airplane. So I basically had that completely taken away from me. It's as I said, Doctor, I think I said in an ABG text is, basically if you're a fully certified surgeon and you go into the operating room and they force you to, because the other surgeon is more senior or whatever, force you to observe the surgeries, multiple surgeries back to back, you kind of want to get your hands in there and do the work. So that's really kind of how I felt.
Yep.
All right. Well, yes, Steph, you had something down?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with Dana.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that was a good question and good discussion. And if you're flying for another carrier out there that does it differently, like is it stipulated in your operating manual, let us know. But as far as I know, it's probably pretty close to the same. The captain is the one that finally or makes the final decision about who does what, I would imagine. All right, we have some audio feedback from a couple of hosts of a new podcast.
Hello, Captain Jeff, APG crew, and listeners. It's AG
and RH
from Opposing Bases Air Traffic Talk. Just responding to an inquiry that came up in episode 307, reference the ATIS code and dissemination of weather by air traffic. I believe the question was, are controllers required to make sure that the pilot has the most current weather information? The example was, aircraft checks in with ATIS Charlie. Controller says, ATIS Delta is current now. Advise when you have Delta. Yes, that is the requirement. And that is the 100% right answer. That is the controller's responsibility to hear from the pilot that they have the most recent information.
The uncool controllers that may ask you to get the current code. Maybe they don't have time to read the new string of weather. Maybe they're unsure whether or not there's been changes outside of the wind, altimeter, and temperature settings that we see in the radar room, and they're not comfortable just spitting out the new weather sequence. So, strictly adhering to the 7110, which is our rule book, landing information contained in the ATIS broadcast may be omitted if the pilot states the appropriate ATIS code. So, us reading it to you may or may not meet that requirement. Us making sure you tell us you have it does.
Right.
The second question that you had during episode 307 alluded towards the mystery of the title of our show, Opposing Bases, Air Traffic Talk. Captain Jeff, you said we still don't know what that means. And you are correct. It has a meaning, and we will discuss that today on episode 4.
Yeah, so watch for episode 4 and the secret to the name.
Thank you, APG listeners, and thank you, Captain Jeff.
All right, we'll see you.
Hey, you may be new on the scene in the aviation podcasting world, but you certainly know how to tease a podcast and promote a podcast.
Yeah, well.
Want to find out more? Tune in tonight at 7.
Yeah, episode 4. You'll find out. And, okay, guys, I guess, I shouldn't have said the cool controllers do this, and, without really knowing what the rules
I think
were.
they're cool.
We think you guys are cool.
I would say guys who say, go and get the information, I'd say, loosen up, mate. Come on, give me a break here. I'm working.
We have things to do here.
Yeah, we do. We have, things to eat and coffee to drink, and we can't be running around getting every bloody ATIS. God, give me a break.
What about those poor air traffic controllers? They have to eat and...
Yeah, they only work for 4 hours at a go, and then they're off. They're off to go and watch the telly and listen to podcasts and stuff their faces. I mean, I have to work for 15 hours at a go, and I don't get.
I feel so bad for you.
Yeah, it's tough life.
Terrible life.
I never work.
Yeah,
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, and Jeff knows how tough it is. He found it hard just being a passenger.
I know, it was terrible.
Yeah,
I don't know how people do it.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Oh man,
Jeff's lucky.
Love it. I've got some great questions for those guys. I mean, I hope they're going to deal with the one that I popped into their show just a few days ago. I hope they've got time to do that on episode 4. But I've got a few more up my sleeve. I can't wait. It's real nice, actually, being absolutely serious, to have some air traffickers there to explain why things happen. And I must admit, hearing that it's in the rule book, when as pilots we have a rule book and we generally know where it's put, but I can't say that we know it so well that we go, we have to do it that way because that's what the rule book says. Yeah, we refer to it at times when things are really important, but it seems to me that the air traffic world has a kind of slightly different attitude towards the rule book, like you don't step outside it. But I don't know, perhaps that's just my impression.
Yeah.
And probably for good reason.
So I'm not even sure we mentioned the name of the podcast, Opposing Bases. Opposing Bases podcast. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. As Captain Nick said, a couple air traffic controllers who are also pilots. And another person that fits that description is Brandon Gonzalez. He started his podcast on a plane, or podcasting on a plane. And that's a great show as well. And he is a air traffic controller, and I believe he's a pilot too. Yeah, should check it out. Both of those podcasts available on iTunes. Check it out.
Well, I really enjoyed Opposing Bases, by the way. It's a really good podcast. Those guys are getting the swing of it, and it's starting to sound very professional.
All right. Moving on to the next one. I think I need to play something here.
We're going green. We're going green. We're gonna take care of the earth. We're going green.
So, again, from Liz, this is an article regarding an airport in Maine, Portland to be exact. They are the first to use 100% recycled de-icing fluid. They're going green. Officials with Maine's largest city say Portland International Jetport is the first airport in the country to use 100% recycled de-icing fluid. Airport Director Paul Bradbury said, for the past 6 years, we've captured the aircraft de-icing fluid sprayed at the jetport to ensure it doesn't mix with the storm water. And our partners at Inland Technologies have taken that process, worked with the FAA to be able to process the collected fluid, remanufacture it, turn it into usable aircraft de-icing fluid. This is the first facility of its kind in the United States, and we are proud to say that with this expansion, we're setting a new benchmark for winter operations sustainability. That's from Inland's president and CEO, Roger Langille. So, congratulations, Portland, Maine, for being green.
We're going green. We're going green. We're gonna take care of the earth. We're
Going green. I just love the opportunity to play that. Thank you, Liz. All right. That should make main man Micah so happy and proud.
Absolutely.
And finally, if I'm looking at this right, I didn't skip any. Looks like the last one here in our mailbag is from Christian. And he said, well, here's a couple of flight attendants who got a wedding ceremony that they were not expecting. According to airlive.net, the attendants were flying on the Pope's flight from Santiago, Chile to Iquique, Chile, and the two met the pontiff. They mentioned that their wedding ceremony was canceled due to an earthquake destroying their church the day they were supposed to get married, and the pontiff asked if they would like him to conduct the ceremony right there on the plane, and they agreed. I suppose this would be the ultimate honor for a Catholic couple. And so the article starts off by saying to LATAM, is that LATAM? Mm-hmm. Is that the way you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Airlines flight attendants were on the trip from Santiago to Iquique, Chile, as all crew members are given the opportunity to do. They went up to the front of the aircraft for a photo with Pope Francis. When the Pope asked them if they were married, the couple revealed the story of how the deadly quake had forced them to cancel their wedding. The pontiff asked if they would like him to conduct the ceremony right there on the plane. The Pope asked them repeatedly if they were sure, but they didn't waver. Pope Francis blessed the wedding rings the couple had worn since their civil ceremony. The couple who met when Podest was working as, I guess that's one of the
Those
flight
are the
attendants.
two flight attendants, yes.
Okay. Was working as the other one's boss, now live in Santiago with their two children. And then they have a picture here in the article of a very nice certificate, I guess, signed by the Pope. And so now I just wanted to mention, and I started off podcasting as Catholic pilot, so I've been a Catholic since 2000. And I just want to say that, first of all, they were married civilly in, what does it say, 2011 or something like that? And it's 2018 now. Doesn't sound to me like they were really...
Life happens, and,
Life happens. So anyway.
You're planning your wedding day, and there was an earthquake that destroyed the church. That's the day you had set aside for all your friends, and you probably put effort into it, and then...
And we're past that now, so
that's just a hard thing to put back together. So I can understand.
It's true. But there is a difference between a legal marriage contract and a sacramental marriage, and that's what they were missing. If they were practicing Catholics, they need to have a sacramental marriage. And anyway, and the other thing
they knew that one day that the Pope would be available to do that.
They must have known. Yeah,
it was worth the wait.
And then also, I was going to say, technically, and I'm really getting technical here, the Pope did not marry them. They actually married themselves, because when two people get together in a sacramental marriage, they are the ones that are actually affecting the sacrament. A sacrament is an outward show or grace or outward and visible sign of inward and spiritual divine grace. And in the Catholic Church and Orthodox churches, the rites of baptism, confirmation, Eucharist, penance, anointing of the sick, ordination, and matrimony are the 7 sacraments. And then some Protestant churches recognize baptism and communion or Eucharist as sacraments. But I guess they've given up on the marriage thing. That's not a sacrament. But anyway, I know that many of you listening to the show are remember that I was started off doing this as a Catholic pilot, and I still am, by the way. But I just wanted to just kind of set a little bit of that record straight. But I think that must have been an exciting thing to be working just to be on the airplane with the Pope and working the flight, and then having this opportunity be avail to them. That must have been amazing, and I don't know anybody that would turn that down.
I would.
Well, of course you would. You're not Catholic or Christian.
I'm a good Catholic. Not.
Anyway, so but anyway, it's kind of a cool thing, and yeah,
and a feel-good story to end.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Exactly. Very good. Thank you, Christian. And Liz also mentioned it as well. So that leads us to the end of the show. You guys have anything else to add or subtract before we sign off for today's episode?
My throat feels better.
Yeah, I hope you're
better.
Yeah, good luck with that. I'd drink hot milk and honey, and that'll help.
Lots of water.
Water.
Yeah.
Water. Okay.
All right. Let's see. Pardon?
Oh, no, I was just saying good luck with getting your throat better.
Oh, yeah. And sounds like, Nick, you're finally over that long, drawn-out cough and kind of cold that you had, I guess.
Yeah, I'm feeling much better. Still got the occasional cough, just catches, but really, honestly, I'm a cured man. And I'm looking forward to my next trip, which in theory will be Miami at the end of the month, but I'm still waiting to see if they have found a training captain to turn that into a line check for me. Still
All right.
Not holding my breath.
Well, let us know. And Steph, I know you were a bit under the weather about a week or so ago. Are you feeling better now?
Oh, that was actually
Couple
2 or
weeks
3 weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It was the week between Christmas and New Year's was.
Oh, well, never mind. That was last year. That's old
I've
news.
been better. I've been better since then, but
Okay,
today
good.
in particular, I'm feeling very tired. So I apologize if I was kind of quiet today. I was just.
Oh.
I don't know. And I haven't been the past few days. I thought I would be after getting back from London, but I was fine on Monday. I was fine on Tuesday, and today just all day from the time I got up, I've been just kind of lethargic. So
Yeah, same thing for me. I kind of felt not bad.
yeah, I don't
getting
feel
back.
bad. I feel
Yeah.
I feel okay. I'm just ready for bed. So
Right.
hopefully a good night's rest tonight, and I'll
All
be
right, good
over
night.
whatever this is.
You're ready for
Good night.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, you're right next to the bed, you and Dana, and I'm not very far from mine either. So
I'm not terribly far from mine.
Although
I think
it's
there's
1:05 in the morning here.
Ouch. Sorry. All right. Well, hey, folks, if you're listening to the show, you're new to the show, you want to learn more about it, the crew, the community, and all that jazz, head over to airlinepilotguy.com. And we have a couple smartphone tablet apps on the iOS platform and the Android platform. Check it out. Just look in the App Store for Airline Pilot Guy show, I guess, or Airline Pilot Guy app, whatever. You'll find it. And it's free, ad-free, and it's a great way to keep track of the shows and get push notifications, maybe, if you're
Sometimes.
still haven't figured that one out. I don't think I've gotten a push notification in months. But
Me neither.
Anyway, let's see. Social media. Steph, you have some information regarding that?
I do. I have a little bit of information about social media. You can head over to Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @APG Crew. You find all of us together there. You can interact with us, ask us questions, get responses, leave stuff for the community. Same thing on Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. So check those out. And let's not forget about Slack this time. Hey, Jeff, we were going to mention at the beginning of the show, there was a lot of questions from our live chat room, people watching the video about the shower curtain going on behind you.
No, it's not a shower curtain.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's drapery. It does kind of look like a shower curtain, but here, let me open it up. Of course, now it's very dark.
We're wondering if Hillel was behind the shower curtain.
Wait, maybe he is. Hang on. Hello. Oh, he is. Hang on.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan meetups and events. To get into the Slack team, please send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @HI11E1, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel @HI11E1, and see you in Slack.
All right, thanks. Get out of here now.
That's not Halal. That's that Cessna salesman.
Yeah.
They sound oddly similar.
Yeah, I kind of heard that voice on your plane tail thinking, huh, why
It
does
can't
that
be the
sound
same
familiar?
voice. My plane tail was like back in the 1950s.
Oh, yeah, well, maybe it was his great-grandfather or something.
That could have been, yeah, family resemblance.
All right. Well, until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
So long. See you next time. Wow. Wow.
Oh, your poor
Nice. Good show. Good show. Thanks, everybody, for hanging with us live. Nick, again, thanks for staying up late.
No problem, sir. I've got nothing else to do.
All right.
I've got a very quiet life.
That's nice.
I'm envious.
Yeah, we all
Me
are.
too.
Let's see. So you're home tomorrow, Dana, and I am too.
What time are you done?
About 1:30ish.
Lucky.
How about you?
Done right at rush hour, 5 o'clock.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
All right. Anything else before we shut off the...
Before we all go pass out and go to
Yeah.
bed. I think that's
I'm
where
looking
we're
at the
all
clock thinking I got to get up kind of early, but I'm kind of hungry. So even though I've been munching, I don't know if you saw me munching on my tortilla chips and salsa.
No.
I
Yeah,
got
we-
with my
we saw.
lunch.
We
Hopefully you didn't hear it.
I heard it once, but
Oh,
not anything terrible. I
Okay.
mean, you were actually like talking at the time, but still finishing chewing.
Oh, still had food in my mouth.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk with food in your mouth, with your mouth full.
It was
right?
only one time. It was brief. It was fine.
Okay.
Well, at least it wasn't me, because if I was eating, I'd probably screw up and you'd hear it 3 or 4 times. It's the story of my life.
Oh man.
I'm kind of hungry too. I just don't know what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice hotel, by the way. That Marriott. So it's pretty new, and yeah, it's just nice.
And my internet speed here is
good.
Oh my god, fiber.
Oh really?
Oh, it sounded.
Yeah,
It's
Not at his
great.
house. Not at
No
his house,
glitches.
just-
No glitch. Yeah, he's in a hotel.
I'm in a hotel, and they gave me
Oh,
this complimentary Wi-Fi access, and it said 60. I called downstairs to access, and they said no, you have to do the 1295 program. I said no. They gave me this little complimentary Wi-Fi access that says choose 1695 day, and you have that. So I did the speed test, and I looked at it and said, holy crap. That's fiber, and then 1,000 gigabits a gigabyte, yeah, up and down. So
A gigabyte.
Gigabits, actually.
Gigabit.
I love that,
yeah.
gigabit.
Wow, that's amazing.
Some good news at the house too. They were AT&T was installing the wiring to the house this morning, so I just have to get the guy out there to hook it up now.
Good job.
Nice. Oh, before we go, Josine, thank you very much again. If you're still there in the chat room, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for putting all that time into the feedback regarding the French words. That was fun.
Absolutely. And if the opposing bases guys are still listening, don't take anything I say seriously.
Yeah,
Please.
nobody does. They shouldn't.
I don't blame him.
Like when he says Airbus is a great airplane, don't take him seriously.
Yeah. Lies. All lies.
Lies. They're all lies.
Well,
It's all the
not
shtick.
forget that we're comparing airliners here. They're
Yeah.
all shit.
They're all mean.
Yeah,
but
we all need to be. Everyone needs to go back to flying just the 172. Everyone go
Yeah.
out, get your own 172 for your own personal
There you
use, and
go.
then you can
Yeah,
have your
Piper.
flying
Piper.
car
Yeah.
or and then we won't need airliners.
Yeah.
Piper or Cirrus.
Or the other thing.
Serious, yeah.
So I guess I'm mispronouncing Montreal. Montreal?
Montreal.
Is that better?
Montreal.
Montreal.
I just listened to the Canada pilots. They say, "Oh, Montreal,
Montreal.
You know,
And now just listen again.
Just stick a whole bunch of peanuts in your mouth on both sides of the cheek and start talking, and it'll sound normal.
Montreal. Okay. Well, Josine, now here, tell me if this means anything.
Votre avis est incroyable.
Well, let's see
Something's
which-
incredible. Your
I tried to Google Translate thing to say like your feedback was incredible or
it was
amazing.
something is incredible, but I couldn't. It's the second word.
I don't know if Google Translate robots did a good job with that or
Play
not.
it one more time.
Okay.
Votre avis est incroyable.
Oh, like your mail was incredible. Your
Your mail part was incredible.
Well, shall we? Okay, so that's what this thing said. Is that right? Is that proper, or is that like a mismatch of words and like your warning?
Your warning.
Your warning. Well, that was not exactly what I
That's
meant. So we have some warning from Josie in Montreal.
Love it.
Your warning was incredible.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's the
Right.
title of the show. Your warning was
warning was
incredible. Of course, nobody will understand
all your feedback.
No,
at all what
no.
that means.
Because it won't
No,
be on
it's
the
got to
show.
be fish urine.
Where do I come up with this shit? I'm sorry.
We don't know.
Well, at least it wasn't fish shit.
Okay. All right. We're going to sign off. We got to go and get some sleep and maybe get something to eat and drink. And thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with us. We're going to do this again sometime next week. We're not sure when, but
Don't we have to?
yeah, we don't have to. We can just quit this whole thing with 308. Put that in the
It was a good
can
run.
and just say
Run.
au revoir.
Signing off.
Fish urine for the win. Absolutely. Okay. Well, with that, here we go. I'm going to hit the stop broadcast button. Everybody have a nice
Bye-bye.
evening.
Bye, good night, bye.
Woo.